like seeing Tiamat in the bumper there, Gore. Not surprised that we haven't seen as much of that pick because it is just a dominant pick here at the SCC level, maybe at the SPL level. Wait and find out. April 23rd, SPL starts. Gore, we got one final matchup here in the EU SCC for today, and the North American SCC will start tomorrow. We've had back-to-back 3-game sets here as well. It's fun to watch kind of the change, the upgrade of some of these teams. The SCC was awesome to watch last year, Gore, but apparently we're in store for a very competitive EU SCC here this year. Still some teams that have to play one another, so the round robin's still continuing. But I don't know if we've seen the dominance of a team like Belt Slap just yet this year. Pandemonium up top at 2-0, but that was a 3-game set earlier on today. Belt Slap rarely dropped a game. It's been a fun one here over in Europe.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very easy path to the top for anybody. So that's a good sign, at least here in Europe. Still maybe have to keep our eyes on North America. Although, based on what I've seen, again, North America, 5 out of 6 of those teams, honestly, all 6 of them really do feel like they could beat anyone else on the given day. So it's really a toss-up, I think, in both regions here. It's making things a lot more interesting, especially going forward, because the standings are very important, right? The top 2 is what matters most at the end of this phase, so you're fighting for those top positions. Pandemonium, in that case, are in the best position right now, right, as they're up at the top. But there's a lot of turmoil. There's a 3-way tie for second right now, depending on how this next set goes. Actually, yeah, no matter how this next set goes, there's a 4-way tie for second because someone's going to win and go up to 1-1 here. So it really is creating an interesting dynamic there just in the middle for everybody involved.
Yeah, very important for JustF6 and the Snake Hunters to grab a win here. Let's talk about JustF6 here for a minute, Gore. Definitely some name recognition on this team, a team that in week 1, despite the loss, looked like a competent squad. You're going up against Pandemonium in week 1, so obviously it's going to be a tough call there. But this team, Toddy, Rotwen, Sotos, Roulat, Lastimics, a very good squad here, Gore, that despite a loss, definitely did not get blown out of the water.
Yeah, and that's actually the thing that was interesting. When I looked at this the first time, Toddy, Rotwen, Sotos, those are the names that stood out to me because I've seen them play together before. And so it wasn't surprising to see them not only still together, but maybe doing well. But it was actually Lastimics and Roulat. Roulat, more than anything, were the ones that kind of caught my eye because they were out there. It was the Hunbats highlights that we saw a little bit earlier. Maybe not so much this Raven, although I think the Raven did pretty well as well. It was so interesting seeing them come out and play because I had literally no clue, no background information. I couldn't tell you anything about these guys, and yet they still looked solid in playing, right? Again, it ended up in a loss, but they looked good in the process of getting there, especially against a team like Pandemonium, where we now see the #1 team. If you beat someone like Elysium, then being able to give them trouble, pushing them to, this 32-minute game? I believe they actually had some of the longer games last week as well.
Yep.
That's very impressive for them. So I actually want to keep my eyes over there. Those two quote-unquote unknown factors to me, right? The jungle and the solo are going to be a big deal for this team.
I wonder, we saw the Raven for Roulat there a couple of times in week #1, so I wonder if that starts to trickle in to picks and bans here today as well, because he looked good. I mean, the highlights showed that Roulat can play that Raven pick well, so that's something I'm keeping in the back of my mind as we move to picks and bans. But before then, we'll talk a little bit about JustF6's opponent score. The Snake Hunters, another team, again, coming off of a loss there in week 1, but still showed some competency. I mean, lots of difficult teams to play over here in EU. Porsche Coast, the Penta Kid, Shoxy Foxy, Gunter, Rapio, and Cozy. Certainly a squad that you cannot take your eyes off.
Yeah, I think between Coast and Rapio, you've got 2 very solid veterans who have been playing for a little while that are going to be able to find a lot. Rapio, I mean, picking up gods that we don't get to see in other places, right? The Thanatos, not something you get to see too often. And same thing for Coast, right? Played the On Her last week, as well as what we got to see, that Chiron that was being played.
Wow.
Like, they're willing to go a little further out of the norm to make things work off, but they also play, you guessed it, the top tier picks just as well. So I'm excited to see what these guys are going to be able to do, especially considering last week, again, Shoxy Foxy was somebody that kind of caught my eye. You don't often get the spotlight as a support, but of course, as a support player, I'm always watching for what they're able to do. And there was a lot of stellar setup, a lot of stellar peel from him. A lot of it was on that Sobek that we just got to see that last highlight from, but I'm actually really interested to see this duo lane and how it progresses.
Agreed.
And I guess really the support as it wanders, because I think Shoxy Foxy could make a pretty big difference in this game if given the right picks.
I think Coast versus Toddy is going to be a fun matchup in the Hunter role as well. Both players very akin to taking a lot of those aggressive 1v1s, so maybe some fireworks to be had over on the duo lane side of the map. Let's see what picks and bans have in store for us for game number 1. Gore, 2 teams, JustF6 versus Snake Hunters, still searching for that first win over here in EU. And again, very early on, nobody's in a hole yet that is too difficult to dig out of. Both of these teams played very good teams in their first matchup and looked good against them. So this is when you start to develop trends, you start to really see where these teams are going to start to move themselves towards as the phase goes on. Sobek continues to be top priority in picks and bans here, Gore. Is it just the presence of that pluck is enough to give you some dominance in the laning phase? Obviously scales pretty well into the late game.
Yeah, honestly, so bad, because I think he's been banned, I would maybe argue, more than anybody else so far in the SCC that we've gotten to see over the last couple of weeks, so I won't be surprised if he pretty much continues to hang out up there as just one of the top bans, almost always in the top 6. He's just good, right? I mean, there's not much else to say with that. Pair him with literally any hunter, he's going to have a lot of progress and prowess over there in the duo lane. Boo-hoo, maybe you have to send him over to the solo lane once in a while, and guess what? He still does pretty well over there, although it's definitely been happening a lot less lately than what we have seen over there in the support role. Very similar to like Ymir. I think he's very aggressive. He drives the game and drives the style that you want to play, but he's just a little more potent than Ymir, I think, all around. Even though if you miss a pluck, you're now in a bad spot, he just has a lot of survivability in himself and a lot of capabilities for the team, so it makes sense to get rid of him.
Look at this tier picked first. Gore, we're starting to see more and more solo laners in those first couple of picks. Guan Yu sometimes, now the tier is the one that gets locked in, which is interesting considering there's a pretty wide variety of picks getting banned out on either side, although I suppose JustF6 taking Sun Wukong, Guan Yu away, those are very solo lane centric bans, leaves that tier open for themselves, the ability to dominate a game. Absolutely there for the tier out of the solo lane. Cerberus as well has fallen into the ban column a couple of times, but not this time. Snake Hunters are going to round out their top 2 with Cerberus and the Tsukuyomi. Gore, what do you think of the Cerb pickup?
I like Cerberus in a lot of instances, and it's something that's interesting to see this early on. We saw him banned, I believe it was in game number 1, maybe game number 2 today, but he doesn't come up often in my mind until you start looking at, again, aggressive play. I think he's someone that is very, very solid at being able to get aggressive, use things like Stone of Binding to help facilitate that aggression and match with, say, someone like Tsukuyomi. Although ideally over in the duo lane, it's probably, let's just go over the top 2 today, Apollo, Chernabog, things like that. And so I think he's going to be able to bring a lot of fights. It also helps ward off healing. There's not a lot picked up for JustF6, but last week we saw Chang'e being banned a lot. We've seen Aphrodite getting picked up, Guan Yu being banned out. Like, a lot of these healers that can still function pretty well in combat, and Cerberus helps just kind of ward that away from you by stripping that healing down.
Wow, and look at what we have here in the Hunter department. Apollo, yeah, that's a story that's been said and done so many times. Cupid, though, one of the first times we'll see him here at the SCC level. So Chernabog, according to my eyes, was still available, but Snake Hunters decide that Cupid is that priority pick here. Gore, what do we think of Cupid? Do you think he's in a good enough spot to be able to compete with that global potential of the Apollo?
I think very similar to that Persephone question you posed me earlier, where it's just, dude, last year he was first pick, first ban, right? Cupid spent a lot of time up there. Even with nerfs and changes and things like that, Cupid's still going to be good. The biggest key factor is going to be those hearts and his healing, right? That's going to be the thing I think that's affected the most, because a lot of what Cupid would do healing-wise was out of combat. I mean, there's some healing that you can do during the combat, and so you're not going to have that big map-wide debuff that is now applied in Season 8. But it's not going to be the same as what we were used to, and that's going to be the thing that I think is going to hurt him the most, is slowing down that role and making sure that he's not going to be as survivable as he once was.
Let's Kumbhakarna once more. Gore, I think we've been whelmed by the Kumbha picks. I am overwhelmed by a Soul getting locked in. That is the first pick here at the SCC. I won't headline it much more than that, Gore. A Soul locked in. What are our thoughts here?
I mean, Soul, in my eyes, this belongs in the mid lane because of the draft they have around it. And that's one of the interesting things about Soul. I think she has this really fun dynamic we typically would see her as a magical hunter. We'd throw her in the duo lane and go all Ottawa-based. But as a mage, she's still pretty solid, right? So I think this is actually a draft that can work out for him. All around, Soul is maybe the weakest thing locked in for JustF6. Ratatosker maybe right beside that, but we saw how potent a Ratatosker could be last year. Whereas you look at the other side, and you go, man, Cupid, he should still be pretty good. Not a lot, like, really took him down. Kumba, like you said, we are whelmed by, and then Zhang Kui, who is very hit or miss. He's tanky, though, and so that's got what he's got going for him. He's really going to hurt off if they get some pin, though. Apollo should have a whale of a time with him.
All right, so you look at this JustF6 team core, the combo of Ratatosker and Apollo, that's a world's classic from Season 7 here. You got to imagine that JustF6 wants to rotate with these two picks.
Yeah, honestly, you look at JustF6, and this feels like something Renegades could have been running at Worlds that we just saw. Like, well, I say a few months ago, 3 months ago total. That way we were locking that one in. It is a winning draft. It is all performance-based here for JustF6. The Snake Fighters on the other side, Snake Hunters on the other side. It is a winning draft. It's just a little more execution-based, right? Like, Zhang Kui, Kumba are going to need a lot more love and attention to make sure things go their way. Tsukuyomi, we saw in some of their highlights, is a pick for them that can do very well, but is it going to be enough on his own to make that difference, or is he going to need a little bit of assistance elsewhere? I think Cerberus is a very solid pick, although because of the Kumba now locked in, I assume that might even be solo lane Cerberus. Could be solo lane Kumba. They have a little bit of flexibility there to work on. And so that matchup versus tier for either of them is really the interesting one to tackle.
Gore, these team fights are going to be a blast to watch. Our third and final set of the day, JustF6 versus Snake Hunters, starting now.
Thank you, Dolson and Gore on the desk. It is Finj and Mifflin here as they move into Game 1 between JustF6 and Snake Hunters. We've got some interesting picks here, Miff, that we don't necessarily always see. The Zhang Kui sticks out. Kumbhakarna, maybe not quite as rare. Soul as well, a pick we don't see quite often. But I think these picks can work also, right? I mean, Zhang Kui can be real trouble. His damage is not negligible, and he's hard to kill. How do you feel about some of these picks that are maybe a bit non-traditional?
I am really interested in Snake Hunters' draft because they are sacrificing their early game almost wholesale for the ability to fight in the late game incredibly well. I mean, Kha'Zix blinks forward, Stygian Torment, burns beads. Then you got Fields of Love as a no-play zone. Gunter is a moving no-play zone once he starts unleashing the ghosts. And then Rapio should be able to clean up the kills. I've got plenty of experience playing with Soul mid, if you want to talk about us JustF6 draft, and that is going to be sacrificing so much of the early game pressure that you might have been afforded had you chose a more standard mage into Zhang Kui. I think if anything, Roulat is going to have a lot of his work cut out for him inside of the 3v3, because until level 6, 7, Soul's essentially a non-factor.
We're going to have a bit of a pause here, though. We're going to get really, truly into the action, but don't worry. Make sure the players are all sorted out and hopping right on in. Miff, I think you're right. This is something I've seen Venenu up in the SPL playing a good deal of lately on his stream, this Soul mid lane. There are still some good ways for these mage ADCs to work, so certainly not something that cannot work at all, but it's non-traditional, right, in that mid role. It's something that maybe not quite as tested some of those other options. And as you said, something's going to come at a pretty big trade-off in terms of not being all that effective early, but once Soul gets going, it can feel so hard to deal with, like Unstable Vortex and Supernova and obviously Disapparate. She has the tools that once she gets there could feel really difficult to deal with.
Especially into the enemy team combo. I mean, who's dealing with Disapparate really well? I mean, she's going to outrun the Kusarigama from Rapio, so it's going to be very difficult for him to find a stun through Tsukuyomi. Disapparate's going to be incredibly strong into Gunter and Kha'Zix as well. Start unleashing the ghost. Well, I'm going to walk away faster than you can chase me, or I'm going to turn into a moving Aegis or something along those lines. They're really going to have to choose their fights intelligently, Snake Hunters that is, if they want to lock down Sotos.
Good start here for Sotos as well, with that restored artifact sort of as that beginning for him. No traditional starter item in that slot. But this is something we'll see these mid lane mages do sometimes. They'll then pick up maybe a starter item later on in the build. We see it kind of all over the place. Sometimes in solo, we'll see them wait to pick up any starter item and then just get Bumba's Hammer outright later on in the game or something like that. It's become very flexible, these early game starts here, Miff, and the way that you choose to go about them and when you get your power spike later on, it's all become so critical.
It has, and I don't have a ton of experience in Season 8 seeing Soul mid, but foregoing that early starter item, we see generally mages might go for Sundering Axe or something along those lines, but we might see the Bumba's Hammer get picked up by Soul, something that fits that auto-attack strategy a little bit more so I'll be very interested to follow Sotos throughout this game, see how he decides to play it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Sundering Axe at all. Some of these mid laners certainly like to do. So, like you said, we'll keep an eye on that one and see where it is they choose to go. We talked about how Snake Hunters might be giving up some of their early game, but that's not the case here for JustF6, right? As soon as Toddy has his ultimate, Apollo can get across, and not to mention Amir and Ratatosker, who are great at this point in the game. Amir could even potentially get someone killed in his own, depending on how he starts, but looks like he's gone with that benevolence beginning this time around. So, is there a lot of pressure on Roulat then, though? As soon as he get that ultimate, does he have to pull the trigger?
I think that I'm expecting Roulat to get involved pretty early on, likely through this duo lane. You want to fight around the lane that has the most kill potential, and Vaporish Coast on this Cupid is likely going to be the easiest target throughout the early to mid game. I want to see Roulat go for these duo side ganks, but having watched JustF6 throughout the weeks, I know that this guy really likes keeping his focus over towards solo. Lestimics and Roulat are a power couple over here.
Kha'Zix and Rapio both here over in right, a little bit of jungle presence, so that's why Roulat showing up as well, but they're on the defensive. Are Rapio and Kha'Zix, because in comes Lestimics looking for the blue buff invade, pins Rapio up against the wall, gets the beads out, so that means it's time for Roulat to move in. Doesn't find the stun, but the dash is there, but gets stunned out in return. So Rapio manages to make his way out of there, close over there in solo, and at least they get Rapio to back.
Now Roulat in a little bit of trouble with Kha'Zix. Breath comes up soon. He might be able to turn that one around, but the healing comes through for him. That potion ticking away should be just enough. Had Roulat decided to use his dart first, the dash before going for the stun, that's almost a guaranteed kill. Maybe he's just so used to having that Acorn Blast Acorn, thinking that the stun was just going to come through either way.
Now a really good chance, but a perfect mez from Shoxi keeps him alive. Boy, was he walking the tightrope there, and in danger of falling over in duo. But still, to this point, First Blood has not been claimed. It is still up in the air. But boy, have we come close to it so far. So we saw a bit over there in solo, kind of what your point was, right, about the nature of these team comps. And when everyone is there, you're still going to skew a bit towards JustF6, maybe a little bit off in terms of the execution. Maybe even qualifies as a dropped kill on Kha'Zix, I'd say. But certainly not something that you're beating yourself up about too much.
No, especially considering how that invade goes, you're at least able to strip away the beads from Rapio, which means you're slowing down this Tsukiyomi. He's not going to be able to make use of this level 5 power spike, likely that piercing moonlight, putting him so out of position. You want to have that fallback and CC immunity to get yourself out of these sticky situations. So Rapio, for the next 70 or so seconds, going to have to play very defensively, whereas Roulat, now on Ratatasker, has the ultimate available, even went for the blink, so he's not losing out on too much defensive capacity, can still get involved very early on.
No, I'm excited to see where Roulat chooses to go now that it is his time of the game, that he's ready to start swinging as soon as he gets that ultimate. Gonna go to speed, of course, first, but it's interesting to see if he does pull over maybe towards duo on the backside of that, as you called out before. And you said that even though you like the duo gank, he's been more of a solo lane ganker in terms of his past performance. So I do want to keep an eye on where he ends up going. Still not going to be the case just yet, though, as my man is farming it up. I want to see him and Rotwin both get a bit more involved. It's not the time just yet, but once Rotwin starts rotating out of this duo lane, he's got some great options in mid on an immobile Zhong Kui. If he steps up too far to the wall, it could be a death sentence on its own.
But it's so hard to shut down Zhong Kui because of his passive in the early game. You don't have the standard burst that maybe Kukulkan or these beam-style ultimates would bring. Rapio getting stunned out here, just a little bit of poke from Roulat. So best case scenario, Rotwin walks up, freezes. What's the follow-up? A second ability from Soul, maybe the ultimate. It's not really enough to shut down Zhong Kui through that defense that his passive affords him.
It's difficult. But you got these early aggressive picks. I don't know if you can just wait, as Shoxi, Foxy, and Sotos in mid don't do a whole lot. Roulat forced to retreat too, and Snake Hunter so far have done a good job. Whenever JustF6 have moved up, gotten aggressive, or even looked for neutral farm, Snake Hunters have kind of been there, haven't they, to push them back a little bit, to provide some resistance, even with a somewhat more later skewed draft. They have not given up on this early game at all.
Yeah, I think they really think the 3v3 likely favors them right now. Gunter's hit his power spike, already has the boots and the tiny trinkets, so he's going to have a slight power advantage with that Vampiric Shroud as well. You've got Rapio on the Tsukiyomi, who's phenomenal at all phases of the game, the ranged poke capacity as well as the lockdown CC and chase down potential from the Piercing Moonlight. Should be able to skew these fights in his favor. It's going to be very interesting to see how that interacts with Soul. The Separate, I know that Piercing Moonlight does damage through immaterial phases like Bat Out of Hell or even Raw Ultimate or something along those lines. So we'll see how it interacts with Souls to Separate as well. I'm very curious to see where the fights are going to start up. So far, both teams seem very content with this passive strategy, but I have to imagine it favors the Chaos Squad.
Yeah, I would think so too, just because of some of the inherent advantages these picks on their own would get. But Amir and Ratatoskr both certainly have mid to late game value as well, as long as if these characters just completely fall off the map. But just does seem as though you're passing by some of their strongest windows. But look at this Roulotte with some presence on the right side. There is no farm up there, my man. We have the benefit of looking. Speed buff is up, but yeah, doubt they're willing to go quite that far for it. So instead, Roulotte hanging out in the jungle, now considering taking that path with Rotwin at his back, but too late. Grabs the Harpies, they second they spawn. Good work from him. Showing off the Luminosity Ward skin as well. Don't have any problem with that. Now blue buff invade Roulotte. Instead of looking for ganks, trying to use this jungle presence to strip away farm, but look at the rotation from Snake Hunters. They bring in Kumba and Gunter, and that is forcing the retreat.
Rotwin left high and dry. Rapio is able to find that slow. Double freeze immediately gets beats out by Zonghui. Rotwin, buddy, your team doesn't care about you in the slightest, my guy. You stayed up a little bit too long. JustF6, leave him there, and Snake Hunters pick up first blood.
Yeah, I'm surprised they get caught out that early, right? I mean, does Sotos give them the information that the goons are on their way, right? I mean, they can't just hang out up there near blue buff quite that long. They end up giving up in the middle of it. Yes, Roulotte escapes with his dash and not being at Amir, so he makes it out of there easy peasy, but cannot say the same for the support. So they do manage to get those Harpies back there, but that's kind of all they end up getting in exchange for their support.
And Rotwin, I think, shouldn't be up that far almost ever, especially considering the build he's elected to go for. Rushes the Thieves, meaning that he's lacking movement speed and power at this point in the game. Hasn't stacked up the Thieves yet either. I think, if anything, this Ymir needs to find his home in a lane, get those stacks rolling before they start looking for these back camp invades, before they start moving so deep into the Snake Hunter's side of the jungle, because we see what happens when you don't have that movement speed. Tier 2 boots aren't going to get you away from Rapio. One slow is all it takes.
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen any ultimates used on the side of JustF6, just to think about what's been committed at this point in the game, as opposed to Snake Hunters, who I think recognize that window over in solo perfectly. And then when it comes to some of these big-time ultimates like Stygian Torment, like Rapio closing the gap, things get scary on that right side. Rather, Gunter, the one that used his. So I think JustF6 have to be a bit more careful about how they're starting the fights. There's the Supernova coming out, and Gunter is the target. They cannot find the two, though. The carpet does not reach Gunter, and he makes it out of there. I like it, though. I know you're saying it's hard to kill this Zonghui, but I don't think they can just afford to wait. Now in comes Roulotte very much later, finds next to nothing.
Yeah, dunks into the tower, knocks up Kumba a little bit, and immediately backs up. But I like that decision-making to go on to Gunter when they did. He had just used the ultimates, the defenses weren't quite there, and already we're starting to see Sotos 2-level lead. Man's chunking right now. I was sleeping on that soul damage, but yeah, that's a Hootie's built up. My man's ready to swing.
Absolutely is. Want to see those mid engagements cleaned up a bit, even if it is good target selection. It doesn't do you much if you mess it up. Toddy forced to use the beads in duo. Vapor's Coast happy with that trade. It can feel so tough going up against a Cupid if you're not like a Rom or an On Her with a CC immune ult to trade.
Yeah, not able to move once he starts channeling that chariot. It's a tough situation for him, and now with his beads down as well, I mean, let your boy Rapio know. That's what I'd be doing if I were Vapor's Coast. Hey man, his beads are down. Walk over here. If we get him low, doesn't even matter if he gets into the air. Just hit him with the Piercing Moonlight, and you should be able to chase him down. So I think we can really expect this Tsukiyomi to make a rotation over to duo.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I want to see a little bit of action from these junglers as well. And you're right about this 2-level lead. Even though Gunter set up the team by helping them get that very first kill, I wonder if that ended up hurting my man with that rotation, because he is significantly behind Sotos, who has just been farming it up. There hasn't been a ton of presence from Rotwin there in mid either. Most of that farm is going to this Soul. They're getting off to a great start and already getting the rings to go alongside this Soul. The attack speed will be on its way shortly.
It's a very fast build. I'll be interested to see whether or not he goes for Telkines or Demonic Grip, but I am willing to bet it is going to be one of those two. Likely Demonic should help out a lot with the shred on not only objectives, but also towers as well. But already, we're starting to see a huge disparity, not only in experience, as you already highlighted, but Gunter's build as well, falling pretty far behind. Goes for the Typhon's Fang in that first slot, matched up with Shoes of the Magi, I think puts him at around 24% magic lifesteal, but his power is really going to be lacking. His penetration is really going to be lacking going forward, and his survivability as well is going to struggle. Normally you see Zhongqui's go for a slightly more defensive build, so they can be that frontliner to make use of that ultimate and stick around in these team fights. I think Gunter, man, if he gets stunned by Ymir or Rulot, he could fall pretty quickly.
I think there's a shot. He's going to be really relying on what that ultimate can buy him in a situation like that, isn't he? On the additional protections, it's just perhaps the damage being its own deterrent, giving his team a chance to turn around. But I agree, I don't love my man's chances. There's quite a bit of presence with JustF6 there in mid. They've got the mid 3v3 there in full force. Now Rotwin stepping up a little bit, sees Rapio on the buffs, but Rapio ends up giving it up, so a nice little invade going the way of JustF6. This has been their modus operandi so far in this game, right? Not really fights. They want to go steal the camps when no one's there.
Yeah, just please let there be no one here when I turn the corner. I just want to kill these back camps, maybe a blue buff, and I'm going to make my way out of there. And they've left duo lane on an island. Who's benefiting from it? It's Vaporish Coast, who's been the better end of all these engagements. Both gods pretty susceptible to ganks, but so far neither team want to commit that.
Well, there's the pressure on the Gunter, who uses the beat immediately, drops the ultimate as well. And that's about as good as you can go. That's like setting some money aside for the future. Gunter should be a pretty easy gank 30 seconds from now, right? When he doesn't have the ultimate or the beads, and everything's back up for JustF6.
And already Rotwin moving forward, seeing if he can maybe find the freeze. Stun off the mark from Rulot. Freeze finds his way home, but all it does is put Rotwin out of position.
And this is a great response from Snake Hunters with that ultimate coming out from the Kumbhakar and Shaxi Foxy right on point. But they're not all in committing here. Rotwin makes it out, but look at this fight between Kha'Zix and Lastemics in the jungle. Does end up going Kha'Zix's way with some of that damage coming out from the Surge, but still no kills. Myth, I can't believe we had all that action in mid just now, and everyone makes it out with their life.
It's so hard for either one of these teams to make a full-on commit. I mean, sometimes Zhongqui just is the tankiest dude on the map right now. Sometimes Sotos is just able to be faster than everyone else and to separate his way out of these situations. It's really hard to find these opportunities, but it's really the macro game that's starting to separate these two teams. JustF6 off of that skirmish was able to force Kha'Zix to match Lestemic's rotation, and that results in the tier 1 tower falling in the solo lane, creating a little bit more space over there. I want to see JustF6 utilize this time where Sotos has such a massive lead over his lane opponent to leverage maybe a Gold Fury or even a Pyromancer or something along those lines, force Snake Hunters to group up on a 5v5 engagement.
They had to do their homework first, though, and get rid of these greater Scorpions on either side if they wanted. And that's become one of my big obsessions in these games now, is what the timing on that looks like. When do you start opening up the Fury and the Fire on the other side and start creating those, those points of interest where fights can start happening across the map? Looks like the time still has not arisen just yet for either one of these two teams, though. They've left it alone. We already know JustF6 would much rather be looking to take some jungle on the other side of the map than worry about what's on their own. They're getting their own farm too, of course, but they'd really like to try and find some invades right about now, is what they've been telling me.
Yeah, I really expect JustF6 to at least try and shut down Vaporish Coast, even take a peek at the builds between these two hunters. Toady GR going for a much more team fight focused build, trying to make his way into these late game fights in mid, maybe the 4v4, whereas Vaporish, he said, no one's going to show up in my lane. I guess I itemized to bop this Apollo, immediately goes into the Icavale, and nobody showed up to punish him. Neither jungler, I think, has gone past the Gold Fury pit yet.
No need to be over there on that side of the map, Myth. Not when there's farm to be had on their own side, so they're kind of sticking to their own so far. But see, that's kind of what I think our overall point is. Certainly Rat exists beyond this point in the game, but it's just that if you're gonna go 0-0-0 on a jungler and just kind of keep your head down and farm, I just think you'd pick someone that skews more towards scaling well with that farm, is sort of my own general concern with it, but it obviously can still work, so I'm not giving up on this JustF6 team.
And he has itemized a little bit more so towards the team fight. Looks like Rulot going to play that bruiser role, picking up the shifter shield in the 3rd slot overall, as Toady GR, again, forced to use the beads, almost loses his life. Someone has to help this guy. Vaporish Coast is bullying him.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's freeform over there. The ultimate trade doesn't work out in his favor. Neither does the relic trade, the build trade, as you talked about already, too. Looks like Roulade is over there securing the purple buff, and now they're going to get aggressive. Coast is retreating, but he's got backup in the wings. I don't want JustF6 to come into this. They dunk in with that Apollo ultimate, but Coast turns around right away. He knows he's got the chance. There's the ultimate coming through from Rapio as well, and they send Roulade filleting away with his tail between his legs. Now Shoxi can find the route, keep Rotwin locked down, but Rotwin has a good freeze to buy himself time to get back under the tier 1.
Roulat's ankles are in 19 pieces. Hopefully the Fountain can put them back together for him. He just gets immediately juked out by Kos, who turns on a dime, dashes towards his team, turns around, and lands a pretty nice heart bomb at max range as well.
Yeah.
Clean mechanical play from the Chaos team's Hunter, and it results in a decent trade. Not only does he get Toddy GR's beads in the initial engagement, but also cleans up the ultimate from him as well. Roulat trades on his blink as well, and that entire time, Rapio was farming up. Now there's starting to be a level disparity in the jungle. We've already seen a slight level disparity inside of the duo lane itself. Snake Hunters are doing a very good job controlling the duo side of the map, and the rest of the map so far has just been stagnating. 1-0 is the slash line, 17 minutes in.
Yeah, and just keeping this game right where they want it, right? JustF6 do keep making some nice plays, like finding an invade here or there, like bringing over a jungler for a little bit of pressure. But Snake Hunters don't seem overly concerned, do they? They just want to make sure that they never really go beyond about 1,000 gold lead or so, and then they can start to really get in their stride when Kha'Zix shows up in these fights. When Gunter makes it literally impossible to team fight with that gigantic ultimate of his, and when you pair that up with Coast dropping down the Fields of Love, it's just some of these team fighting ultimates just seem a little bit too strong. I mean, Apollo doesn't even have a team fight ultimate. You're just down one inherently.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of split pushing from Toddy GR, just trying to control where
All he can
Vaporous
do.
Coast is allowed to farm, because you're not matching the pressure Fields of Love brings in the 5v5. You're absolutely right, Finch. But I think that if anything, JustF6 really need to start hitting the gas pedal soon. We're starting to get into that
This ain't it for 18
mid-game,
minutes,
late-game
man.
phase. Yeah, Gunter is getting huge, and he's just building whatever he wants. Pythax, P-Song, Qui, where am I?
That's the build for him as Fury is down well below half. Toddy is on his way with the ultimate. The fight has already stopped. They've dropped the Fury, and they're looking to trade hands instead. But a good dunk from Toddy does cause some problems. But everyone makes it out, and now it's Rapio's turn to re-engage. The Aegis from Toddy doesn't last long enough, and that will be the first kill of the engagement. But Sodos is here, and boy is he huge, trading one as he takes care of Rapio. Gunter is the next one up, but a good stun comes in that prevents it as Gunter repositions, but is not able to get away from Roulat. But Vaporish Coast is a man on a mission himself, puts down Rotwin nicely to make it 2 for 2, and they might even be able to get Roulat in the back if they can find a little bit more setup.
The dash should be able to close a little bit of that gap, get him out of that sticky situation there. The shell usage from Shoxi Foxy was so late in that engagement already. Rapio and Gunter had fallen. He's just keeping the Penta Kid alive, and I can completely understand that mentality. But finally, 19 minutes into the game, we're starting to see a little bit of that disparity, a little bit of that team fight potential that the Snake Hunters have. JustF6 play it incredibly well, staggering their initiation, having a lot later in the engagement just to desync how the Snake Hunters are able to disengage themselves. But even then, it results in a net wash, essentially. Snake Hunters not quite able to close up that gold gap, though, keeping it around 1,200. As you said, exactly where they want them.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to do a little bit of better job playing around Toddy's ultimate, aren't they? I mean, he got almost the ideal Apollo ultimate to start that team fight off. And they just got to make sure they're not committing too hard to the fight until they know that that's been expended. It's difficult, though. Apollo can kind of just hang out in the air for a bit, pick his spots a little bit better, but that's going to be the task here for Snake Hunter, so that there is that disparity in terms of ultimate impact in the team fight that they should have in their favor. Just not quite sure it happened in that one. So the Fury's still standing. The game's still very, very close. This one could break either team's way easily, but now that we're getting later and later in the game, it just feels like JustF6 are going to have to execute a bit harder and harder in each one of these team fights.
And it's going to become much easier as the game goes on to close that gap on a soul to separate. Not going to be the great defensive tool that it used to be once Rapio just straight up has 1v1 potential, especially considering he's already picked up the Chile, making it much harder for this soul to escape out of these situations. Yep. He's going for a much more one-shot centric build as well, with the Hydra's Lament coming through, just additional burst. I think that Sodos is going to need a lot of peel for his team, and really, the only one who can peel is Rotwin, who's also their best engaged tool.
This is the biggest fight of the game so far. Maybe The second fight of the game so far, truly, is the Fury is very, very low. Kha'Zix moves in, drops the ultimate. Rotwin gets out of it with the ult, but Toddy gives up the beads. That is huge that Kha'Zix got it and makes it out with his life. Does get pinned down by Listemics, but nothing life-threatening yet as Gunter moves in with the ultimate. That drops the Fury once more. Now up in the sky is Rulat, who drops down, and there's two isolated with the wall. Rotwin showing up big on the Amir for them so far. It sets up a double for Rulat. Toddy lands in the back for 3. My fears of these late-game fights perhaps getting assuaded by how well Rotwin's playing.
Yeah, Gunter blinks forward and immediately loses life. Now Foxy on the retreat inside his tier 2 tower, being accosted by Listemics, who now is on the retreat himself. JustF6 using Ymir Wall fantastically to create space, and now they can back up to that Gold Fury incredibly cleanly. But the stemming issue here is we see Gunter engage the fight himself. My mans, you got Typhon's Fang and Pythax Piece. You're not a tank. You can't do that. The second his ultimate ticks away, they say, oh, word? Let's kill him. And that's exactly what happens. He's too squishy to be playing like a frontliner. He has to leave it up to Kha'Zix. He has to let Foxy engage these fights because, I mean, this Zhong Kui, man, it's not getting value from this lifesteal.
And I build that as the most important fight of the game so far. This is the first real lead we've seen, close to 5,000 in favor of JustF6 as we cross the 22-minute threshold, officially moving into that mid-game to late-game stage here now, where we're not worried so much about our lane assignments, where we are looking for the team fights. We're fighting around objectives right about now. And if I'm JustF6, that's exactly what I'd like to do. We said they got to step on the gas. It was Snake Hunters who opened up the Fury, and then JustF6 kind of had the counter engage, so to speak, to it, to Gunter blinking in. Is this team they drafted a counter-engaged squad? I mean, because that's how it feels like they've played it in these two fights we've seen so far.
Generally, most teams up against Zhong Kui do have to skew their style a little bit more so towards counter-engage just because of how good that release Demons is. The second he goes into it, he gets that additional defense as well as the walking no-play zone. So, but the majority of the time, you do just kind of wait for Zhong Kui to spin his wheels a little bit, and then you can start to gas pedal. But JustF6, I don't even think counter-engage is the best word for it. I think it's re-engage, where this team really flourishes, where they're really thriving. Because once Gunter moves forward, you stepped up on us? Oh, Rotwin can drop a wall, separate you from your team, and then create these artificial 4v1s, 5v1s to really close up this gap. Rulat's got the chase down as well with through this tree ultimate up into Yggdrasil. Toddy GR as well can get up in a chariot towards the sun. It's just so hard for Snake Hunters to escape if their initial fight doesn't go their way.
And I think Snake Hunters do have the ability to do this sort of whittle-down strategy they're trying. They sent Kha'Zix in for a cool-as-you-like ultimate to get beads, to make Toddy more vulnerable, and then they can come back in later and punish him, but they never did the come back in later and punish, right? As soon as Gunter moved in, he was essentially a dead man that left him in a bad 5v4, and as you said, these Rotwin walls have been nuts, completely isolating the fight, and then turning what was a 5v4 into a 5v2. They've got to find a way to avoid getting picked apart in these engagements. And by the way, I think a lot of these tools JustF6 have used in these last two fights would have worked at the 10-minute mark, but better late than never, right? I can't complain. Wall and Rat ult and all that's all there.
Yeah, now the wall's 7 seconds, Finch. Can't fight before it gets up to that rank. And now Snake Hunters, off of losing a team fight, start up the Fire Giant, get your Hail Marys ready, because they are exposing themselves. But keep your eyes on Toddy, he's going for the split push.
Yeah, they cannot hard commit to this, right? They're losing too much on left, and they can't even out-confirm on the actual objectives. So instead, they drop it and take the fight. In they move in Rulat, who's forced to use the ultimate to disengage, but there's Gunter dropping the ultimate on top of the tanks, Listemics and Rotwin, who get stuck inside the Fields of Love. Listemics makes his way out, and Shoxy does lock down Rotwin. So they do manage to get one kill, but look at my man Toddy. He does not care at all, getting the left side Phoenix all on his own. And I don't think it's worth it here, Myth, for Snake Hunters. That just was not a good trade.
They have to get the Fire Giant with 3-man grouping. Now 4, they have an opportunity for it. Rulat, no ultimate available. Sotos and Listemics in the exact same boat. The only one who has an ultimate is Toddy, who goes back to base to reset himself, and he's immediately starting to move forward. But Snake Hunters reset it. They want the fight.
Yeah, you're right, but in comes Toddy. He can go right down into the action and try and lock down Vapor's Coast, but Rapio gets the kill on the Sotos. Gunter gets Rulat. Now they're turning the tide a bit with a 3-for-0 engagement. But Myth, I think they need to win the fight handily and get fire as the root lands onto Listemics. Toddy trying to find a way to land some of those autos, but in comes the ultimate over the wall from Rapio to hunt down Listemics. They absolutely want this life.
And they pick him up easily. Rapio with the enhanced auto attack from using the Kyle traps, able to chase that one down. But Snake Hunters are not as healthy as they once were. They can't just go back to the Fire Giant. They have to reset all the way to base. 30 seconds left on Soto's spawn. Roulat and Lestemix, very similar respawns as well. Snake Hunters are in a position now where they can immediately start to regroup on this Fire Giant, and it seems like that's going to be the strategy. They've already ignored the Firemen who are starting to work their way into the base, already knocking on the door of the Titan. They have to get this Fire Giant, or it was all a throw.
Yeah, and then they got to do a whole bunch with that Fire Giant, right? They got to get the Phoenix of their own.
Yes, sir.
in trade. So this is just step 2 on a 12-step plan to make giving up your Phoenix worth it. Shoxi is on the zone. Fire Giant already down to half, but Roulat and Sotos are up. But can they make it to the fight in time? Seems unlikely. Rotwin trades his life. Fire Giant is low, but still not yet secured. Goes over to the Chaos side team. JustF6 cannot contest. It's officially Phoenix traded out for what, a 3, maybe 4 for 0 plus Fire Giant.
And I think generally you could say that that's worth it. They now get to choose where the engagement happens. Snake Hunters, that is, they can start to push down that left-hand side and fight through these Fire Minion waves. They've got 6 towers still standing to collect gold from as well. I don't even think they need to necessarily take a Phoenix themselves. If they can just clear out every single tower, this gold lead that JustF6 has is going to go away and then some. Snake Hunters are in a position now where they're primed to start taking the game back in their own favor.
They're going to need to do it. One of the things you just said is got to happen. They got to go clean up all these towers or get to the Phoenix, man. I'm sorry. I'm not going to pretend the check's cash until it is here for Snake Hunters, because that's where they're at right now. I think maybe pushing up left, at least until they get to this tier 2, is a pretty big call, though. They want these Fire Minions dealt with to give their Phoenix some time to get healed up. But look at JustF6. They're not posting up for a defense. They're looking to make another trade. Wherever Snake Hunters go on the map, JustF6 are the ones spreading the map out.
And if Snake Hunters decide to, if they try to match the push despite having Fire Giant on 5 with all the defense that the bases have, if this comes down to a base race, we're favoring JustF6 every single day of the week. Look where they're positioning. They're immediately moving in towards it, but good eyes from Snake Hunters standing on a ward. Should have thought about that one, boys.
Well, I mean, like, don't you think that's still worth it if you're JustF6? Just as a bluff, you're wasting this Fire Giant time, you're pulling them off your tier 2. I mean, I kind of love the position JustF6 had put themselves in.
I cannot believe, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have popped off in favor of JustF6 there. I cannot believe every single one of them backs there. All they have to do is send
all 5.
2 or 3 members, maybe just the Zongkui and Kha'Zix to back to keep that base alive. There's no way Snake Hunters can fight through the 2 of them. And now, as you said, JustF6 lose a lot of their momentum, or Snake Hunters rather, and leaving behind that tier 2 tower. Interesting play.
Well, now they're trying to brute force the tier 2 tower in mid, and JustF6 are not going to put up a hard defense on it. Not even a soft defense. They let this tier 2 tower go after successfully burning at least a little bit of time. And now Snake Hunters, considering taking some backs, Coast cancels his, I think wisely. And they're just going to back up. Myth, this is a little bit closer in terms of their overall value attained. The left side Phoenix is back up, but forever weakened. They got the tier 2 tower in mid and the tier 1 there and the tier 1 in duo, but that's all. Doesn't really equal the value they lost, but they've got this game close. They're definitely not blown out of it yet.
Yeah, I would say net game neutral so far for the Snake Hunters. They came into this with a 5k deficit, and it looks like they're going to come out of it with a 5k deficit. JustF6 picking up the Pyromancer for themselves, reestablishing that 5,000 gold exactly in their favor. Snake Hunters were not quite able to do enough to close up that gap. That forever weakened Phoenix, as you already highlighted, I think is the most important thing to come from this last 4 or 5 minute just engagement here. Now, it's just that much easier to siege the base.
And look at what JustF6 are doing. They found themselves another tier 2 tower in right. Snake Hunters are getting completely spread out across this map, man. And JustF6, we were worried about how they would continually keep up with this pressure throughout the way the in-game worked, but they decided they're not going to. They're setting the pressure and daring Snake Hunters to come to them, but they do eventually blink with the Fire Giant over on Snake Hunters. They back up in right with Shoxi Foxy's presence and come back to defend. How do you feel about that call? Do you think maybe they keep pushing over there in right, or are they right to come back and defend in left?
I think the defense works out, I suppose. You don't want to, when the margins are this thin, you really can't take the biggest risk possible. You have to kind of play
Right.
for defense in these situations, but already we're starting to see a situation where Snake Hunters are coming into a Fire Giant defense from behind. They've already secured it for themselves once, but the last couple of team fights have really been swinging in favor of JustF6. But as time goes on, as we approach that 30, 35, 36-minute mark, that's where gold starts to mean less and less, and it comes down to more so how the compositions are panning out. And we said it at the 0-minute mark, and I still think it stands true. Snake Hunters should have the advantage in a true 5-on-5 engagement.
That's right, but they're going to deal with really long sustained damage now, both from Sodos and from Toddy. Here's Snake Hunters grouping up, and as Doug aptly points out, they'll be catching absolutely no one by surprise. Positioned just about on a ward, most of them are, some are off. So JustF6 have the idea of what's going on. If I'm JustF6 though, Myth, I don't think I want all 5 members here to defend. At the very least, you want Toddy out there trying to split push right now?
Yeah, I'd probably slam Toddy into the mid lane and have him try and push down this tier 2 tower. The second anyone from Snake Hunters shows presence, that's when you want to disengage, use that ultimate, and regroup with the 5v4 engagement around the Fire Giant itself. But Snake Hunters have done a good job establishing the defensive positioning, essentially hedging out JustF6. But meanwhile, Roulat's going ahead and strip away tier 2.
Yeah, but Rotwin does what he's been doing all game, isolating the
Kha'Zix?
front line with a perfect wall, and that means Shoxy Foxy is low. Meanwhile, Roulat has taken care of the mid-tier 2 already, and this has been the big deal for Snake Hunters, man. They cannot keep up map-wide. It seems like they have the micro okay, what they're going to do in each individual engagement, but once it gets any bigger than that, Snake Hunters are getting left behind, man. They can't keep up.
They really can. In that fight, by the way, we saw Stygian Torment used on a Ymir wall. That's it.
Oh, no.
It was just hit the Ymir wall. Fire Giant now enhanced, by the way, down to 10% HP. It's just Tony GR in there. They're just ignoring the team fight.
And JustF6 end up getting it. They trade Rotwin for it, but if they can get everyone out, of course they'd make that trade any day of the week. But it looks like they're going to lose Soto, so that's way less worth it than if now they're giving up 2 lives and Snake Hunter's in position to take some favorable 5v3 engagements. And instead of engagements, I should have said mid-Phoenix, because they want the mid-Phoenix.
I cannot believe JustF6 were willing to trade out lives for the objective, especially considering how well they were to take the last couple of team fights. They've been in the defensive position, they've been playing it incredibly well, and instead they traded out. Now Snake Hunters are in a position where they could even potentially end the game.
Yeah, if they get one more pick, Myth, I think you're right. If they get a clean pick with everyone still alive, this game could potentially end, but they're not going to risk it. They're backing up. And Myth, I'm right there with you. JustF6 are perfect. As Listimics is the one that ends up getting caught, forced to use the Lawbringer in order to disengage. Good Mez will get their solo laner out of trouble. But now Toddy gonna fall to the Heart Bomb, has to use beads and Aegis, and in comes Vapourish Coast. Myth, I'm losing the thread here over these last couple of minutes.
Yeah, emotional whiplash, strategic whiplash. I'm going to keep saying whiplash because that's how I feel. It just seems like there's not really a coherent thought process on how they're approaching these fights. And Rotwin, dog, you can't walk in alone. You're a Ymir.
Yeah, now he's been hit by the epic uppercut. Rapio lays down, but in comes Listimics with a perfect Lawbringer landing right in the middle of it, but up into the sky goes Roulat, so he'll be able to disengage. Suddenly, this is turning into a long, drawn-out engagement on the base of JustF6, favoring Snake Hunters with the minions pouring in. But if you're JustF6 and you're playing the entire map better than Snake Hunters can keep up with, why then do you all in on the FG? I mean, I thought Snake Hunters right where they wanted them.
Yeah, I thought the second that fight started up, I was like, okay, now's the time to find these engagements. Rotwin's just going to drop a wall, but instead they ignore their homie and go for the objective. They get it for sure, but only 2 members of their team are benefiting. Roulat and Listimics, the only one still at Fire Giant. 3 minutes until that bad boy respawns. It's going to be out of play for a long time. No world does JustF6 step up to a Phoenix at this point. I think, if anything, all they have to do is wait for this next Fire Giant push. But at the end of the day, I have to highlight it. Not often do you get to see a 4-man fearless. Rotwin needs to buy this mana drink. Listimics saves the game with that.
Right, if they end up losing Rotwin there on a free pick, Snake Hunters have the re-engage opportunity. Just odd, man. It's becoming difficult to dissect the critical pieces as it feels like the puzzle is crumbling in my hands, right? I mean, the game's happening all over the place. But now Snake Hunters looking for aggression as JustF6 have moved up on the left side of the map. It's an all-in commitment from Snake Hunters, and Toddy is the target. He doesn't have time to call the chariots. He's a dead man walking.
Yeah, maybe a purple buff invade this late in the game might not have been the best call, but what's been working for JustF6? That split push, baby! Doesn't matter if it's Toddy, doesn't matter if it's Roulat. Another bird goes down, weakened forever. Snake Hunters trade out Apollo's life. That's not value.
Yeah, not bad. He didn't have any relics in that fight either. I don't know if a single one would have made a difference for him, but... So he'll take a bit of a seat. 40 more seconds before we see him come back. Big power pots being purchased for JustF6, and they got that right side Phoenix down. Left side Phoenix weakened and more easy to take down as well. So they're keeping themselves in it by splitting up the map, and Snake Hunters are keeping themselves in it by recognizing when JustF6 make positioning mistakes. Those are the two levels of the game right now. It's that JustF6 is winning, and then sometimes they make a positioning mistake.
Yeah, JustF6 now in a position where they could step forward again, but who's going to be the split pusher? You'd think it'd be Toddy GR on respawn, but Roulat has been having an absolute blast attacking the PvE. My man does not want to line up against another human. Instead, he likes attacking AIs, and he's going to go for that left side Phoenix. We'll see if Snake Hunter sends someone back on the defense. Nope, Roulat goes ahead to back, but it doesn't stop Rapio from thinking it's going to happen. He heads back to base as well. And a little bit of indecision from Roulat as he decides whether or not he actually wants to keep pushing.
Yeah, I think he's going to decide to back once he sees Rapio, though, and that is indeed the case. My man takes the back, and Rapio defends left successfully now. They're looking for a chance to get Listemics in mid. That does not materialize. And we're teeing ourselves up for another Fire Giant stance here. Memphis Roulat is still over in left. Just pushing up the waves, keeping this pressure going. That's what this JustF6 team have used this composition well with in this late game, is spreading out the map. And I like that they're sticking to it, though. Rapio's here this time, dropping the cow chops over the wall and not getting baited.
Yeah, Rapio's mistake was showing presence there. He should know by now that Roulat will not fight another human. He's got to wait until this Ratatasker starts hitting the bird if he's going to want to choose a fight for himself. Rapio is now essentially head captain of left lane. He has to be there to stop Roulat for going for this split push, but it's not that bad of a value trade. Roulat's global ultimate is not nearly as versatile as Apollo's. Toddy GR could group up on this left side Phoenix and then rejoin his team on Fire Giant. Roulat really can't get that far.
Yeah, he'd make it to mid, you know, and then walk the rest of the way, I suppose. So I am a bit surprised they continually choose Roulat, especially if they're not interested in looking for the 1v1 once it happens over there, which might have been why I'd have thought they sent the jungle over, but they like Roulat's chances so far, and now he's backing up. They had a ward. Good work again there from Doug, so he knows Rapio is on the hunt. In fact, hiding now around the corner, blinking in, can't find the stun. So yeah, I give up on the fight instantly. Oh, but no, in comes the ultimate, so Roulat has to use his, and he flees, scurrying away. No, he goes back in, because Toddy's here. He's got backup, so of course he wants to fight now. You thought you were getting a 1v1 Rapio. That ain't how we play around here.
Those dice cow drops. Why Roulat goes back in and says, Tony, no, I need this kill, all right?
Yeah, I did. I'm part of it.
In Rapio for a long time, and he almost sacrifices his life. Such an unfortunate situation, but that's what double global ultimate works with. I guess potentially that could have been the strategy all along. All right, here's what I need you to do, Roulat. You're going to go ahead and split push, force Rapio to think he's winning the fight, and then I'm going to ult over there. But what was the rest of Snake Hunters doing that entire time? They had a situation where it was 4 versus 3, and they didn't do anything with it.
No, in fact, they're sending Kha'Zix back again to deal with this left side pressure. They are struggling to find the correct answers quickly to deal with this pressure. And it is hard, man. I don't want to make it sound like it isn't. Even at this level of play, to accurately, constantly, for 40 minutes, make the right call against global pressure is real difficult. And Snake Hunters, they're bending, but they have not yet broken. So they're doing well to at least still be in it. As now JustF6 are the ones on the Fire Giant and got it started up.
Yeah, as they should. Still 7 seconds left on Rapio's respawn. They don't even need their ADC really to be there for the damage because Soul is just doing that much. Snake Hunters left Phoenix respawns, but Gunther falls quickly.
Yeah, Supernova does a lot of damage in the late game. Snake Hunters, though, get the Fire Giant. They steal it away at the last minute, so it doesn't go to JustF6. So JustF6 have to win the fight now. Sodos gets a double kill by burying Vaporous Coast. Now they get the stun, looking to see if they can lock down Shoxy Foxy. But I think they're done with the chase. They want to push instead. Of course, Roulat doesn't want to be with the team. He'll stick with the other strategy, whatever the other strategy is. And it looks like it's hunting down Foxy, who uses the blink to narrowly extend his life.
There's no world this Apollo comes to the Kuma corner right now. Not this time, but Roulat's going to have to struggle for a little bit if he wants to get this kill. It's going to take a long time. I think he'd have been better served rejoining his team because the defense is looking pretty good. Rapio and Kha'Zix just enough to keep JustF6 from going into the bird, but all right, Roulat, you got him. Shoxy Foxy dead.
Yeah, that was a JK on the Phoenix push, by the way. Not really hard committing to that one in a world where they don't have everyone there. Rotwin this low. So it looks like they're going to fall back, but Sodos, Listemics, and Toddy are indeed still here. It'll be a 3v2 if they stick around here on their own up against Rapio and Kha'Zix, who certainly can defend this. Remember, Phoenix or Fire Giant is not on JustF6. They could not secure the objective, as there's the Stygian Torment. That collects Sodos, and at the very least gets both of his relics. A great trade there for young Kha'Zix, huh?
Yeah, he really didn't want to get damaged by that Stygian Torment. Maybe a fat finger like, oops, Aegis got a beads now too, though, that the CC is really the good part, and he loses out on both. So Sotos, very likely going to be a long time till we see him start to get aggressive again. JustF6 now on the back foot, but a deja vu of the last Fire Giant. Doesn't go really either way for as far as the fight goes, because only 2 members on the side of Snake Hunters are benefiting from that buff. No way. They look for a siege themselves. Instead, they can use this time on the defense to get their right side Phoenix back up.
Well, look at the damage Kha'Zix and Rapio are putting out, or excuse me, Rapio and Coast are putting out, both over that 24,000 damage marks, and it's a good 3,000 mile difference before they see the next person doing damage behind them, huh? And that is Toddy, who's been great this game so far for JustF6, as has Sodos. So who will break through, though, becomes the question. Will it be the jungle ADC of Snake Hunters, or will it be this ADC mid-combo of JustF6 that's providing all this damage? Looks like we're going to have another grouping up around this fire, right? I mean, neither team could feel comfortable trying to push, as Roulat sets a trap for 4 all alone. Yeah, he's right to disengage. Does find the stun, has to use the ultimate, of course, because he was all alone. But now maybe there's re-engage potential as Rotwin shows up. He's so patiently waiting. Is Roulat up in the sky, dunks down on the Kha'Zix, and they do get the kill on the Gunter. So my man Roulat springs the trap, but Sodos ends up falling.
Gunter doesn't even get a chance to use the ultimate, but now Rotwin left isolated, feels the love. I bet you're feeling it. Puts him down into the dirt, but he's able to maintain his life at 1%. Vaporish Coast, the Pentakid, working his way forward. Lestimics, now the only one on the older side still in any sort of danger here. 1 for 2 trade. 4 still standing on the side of Snake Hunters, man. Gunter on the Zonqui hasn't needed to do anything and hasn't come up yet. Let's start sieging a bird.
Yeah, the pick that was our biggest question mark has not changed it into an exclamation point, has he? The question still remains. The Snake Hunters are trying to end this game right here and now. They move into the Titan room. Still very little damage onto the actual Titan itself, but boy, do they have the lockdown on Lestimics. And they don't even truly have that. He makes it back to the fountain, and they have to get off the Titan. They do get this kill on the Roulat, but can they afford to re-engage? Coast is low, so is Shoxy. They do step back in, but here's Lestimics keeping them at bay. In comes Toddy next with the DPS. So they'll send Kha'Zix in. He finds the control with the ultimate Stygian Torment, but the Aegis keeps him alive. They do finally start putting damage on the Titan, but Toddy gets 1 kill. Rapio gets the 1 in exchange, and now they've got a realistic chance to put this game to bed. But still, Lestimics, who's been a beast all game, trying to keep the game alive. The Titan is incredibly low, but they don't have the damage. They reset it, and they keep the game alive. Maybe minions can do it, but no, the reset comes through, and the Titan is too healthy.
Yeah, Gunter, though, on the other side, having an equally valiant battle, able to keep his own Phoenix alive. Such a tough situation. Had Snake Hunters at any point in the first 30 seconds of that dance around the Titan decided to hit the Titan, I'm pretty sure we could already be talking about the next game. We'd already have Gore and Dave back here talking about the match, but instead, JustF6, beyond all odds, able to keep their Titan alive. But up against the Snake Hunters, man, with this global ultimate team composition, are JustF6 going to be able to stop a 5-man grouping from just walking in and breathing lightly on their Titan? That's all it would take to knock that bad boy over.
They truly would need to just walk up and down smash, huh, to get this game over with. But what's going to be the call? I mean, Fire Giants back up. Is that a lure too strong? Will that be pulling the teams over there instead as we pass the 44-minute mark in this contest? JustF6, time and time again, have looked like, I don't know how they lose this game, but here they are with their Titan on its last leg. Maybe they really are on the precipice of giving this one up. And we had Snake Hunters picked at the start of this if this game went late, and yet here I am surprised at the nature of the game.
It looks like JustF6 are going to be starting up the enhanced Fire Giant for themselves. A risky call, considering how healthy your Titan is. My man is on
Snake Hunters are coming too
right now.
Yeah, they're
where
coming to
are
the battle.
you?
He's right in the thick of the battle, not at all tanky, and ends up going down, but boy did he get the enemy team low. That's going to force JustF6 to take a bit of a reset, and no one on Snake Hunters looking like they want to push past and just go for the Titan Epic. Uppercut doesn't connect. He just wants to let's close the gap and catch up to Toddy so they can get the kill, and Coast does do that. So now only 4 members alive to try and keep this very low Titan healthy. It looks like they're not even going to rush it. Snake Hunters are going to go to the Fire Giant first and take that.
Yeah, Might as well. No way Lestimics is able to steal it, right? Still has the ultimate available, could work his way forward, but Mez might be enough. It's low, man! No way! No!
Yes, Snake Hunter's taking his whole Lestimics. It's an absolute disaster if you're JustF6, because now the Fire Giants on the other side. Mifflin. This has been a game of throws at the wrong word, but boy has the balance shifted in this one, hasn't it? Back and forth, and now Snake Hunters are going to do what I thought they'd do before they even went to the Fire Giant, except now Snake Hunters have the Fire Giant, so let's see how it ends up going.
Ignore them, Shoxy! Kha'Zix, go kill the Titan instead! They're more interested in the fight. Sotos, pretty low, falls easily.
Okay, so they get the first kill on the Sotos. That's critical. They've got 3 members low, but Vaporish Coast finds a 4th. So Mifflin, I think this game is finally about to end. No way Rulat can stop this on his own. It's the tanks. They can do enough damage. They've got Kha'Zix here. It's over, Miff. This one's done.
That could have happened at any point, Chad. I need you to
Let's
understand
go!
that at any point that could have happened. Shoxy and Kha'Zix were in a position where legitimately the enemy team walked away from their own Titan. They said, "Oh, we don't care. We're going to go kill your backline." They could have just lost the game there, but instead they threw it up to fate inside of a team fight, and fortunately the tanks were able to close it out.
Well, that one was strenuous. Had me thinking Fire Giant was on the wrong team, and I was all over the place at the end of that one, Miff. I've done this for a long time now, and still I can be dragged down into the muck. It's been made clear for me here in this one, because boy, was that one tough. It would be a disservice to every clean game that's ever happened to even pretend this was clean, right? To even say it for a moment. It was not, but the win does end up going down in the end, Miff. You gotta get back in here with me, bud. Don't leave me all alone. You know what, Miff? I lied. Don't come back in. Let's go to a break instead. We'll make Dave and Gore handle this one.
What a chaotic back-and-forth fiasco game number 1 was there, Goremizer. 46 minutes. The longest game we've had so far in my memory here in the SCC. And it was all because of crisp, squeaky, clean play. Both teams playing their chess pieces exactly where you want to put them. And it all comes down to the wire. Jokes aside, look, it gets messy. We're rolling around in the dirt. Chaos is all over the battleground.
You gotta pop your neck, crack it, and you just go through the mud until you win.
Right, and eventually, it did come to an end there, and Snake Hunters were able to grab it in 46 minutes. I mean, this one's long, Gore. I mean, at some point in these longer games, it's hard to even rewind it so much to the early stages because so much can change there. But I'm glad we start off with Coast here. 2.75 KDA, respectable, 40,000 damage in a 46-minute game. Also very good. More important, I think, is that Cupid got a good data point so far here in Season 8.
Yeah, and honestly, we got to see, I think, a lot of bright notes from him throughout all of that. A lot of Fire Giant steals, quote-unquote steals. I don't know how much of them would, like, where the threshold for steal and confirm is in this game kind of got blurred a couple of the times. Some of them were steals, some of them were confirms when one team just dropped a little too late. It was very interesting to watch that dynamic between, specifically, you got to see Rapio here in the jungle, as well as, like you said, Coast, being able to showcase what they did. Because these were the two that got to shine. I was excited to see what Zhang Kui could be, and he ended up being almost a null point throughout the game. He didn't get to exist, but he was an extra body. Like, this is gonna sound really mean, and I don't mean it to, but it's really helpful having a guy on your team that's just going to die for you, right? Like, Gunter's gonna get a lot of damage out there, he's going to exist, but because Zhang Kui is so tanky, to kill him as a mid laner, it's going to take a little bit more time, and that's time that someone on JustF6 isn't devoting to the Tsukuyomi, to the Cupid, and so it's actually beneficial to you. Like, him going 2, 5, and 9 is not really the worst thing in the world because that enables the 8, 4, and 7 and the 7, 4, and 8. Nice mirror right there for the two.
That's right.
Kind of hyper carries there for the Snake Hunters. But it is interesting to see how this came down to what is, I want to say, essential of late game Smite. There is a period where the game switches, especially at this level, and it no longer is about what's your gold lead, whose levels are ahead, where are you at in builds. It literally just comes down to how clean are you going to play this team fight. And as you put it, as Finch put it, as Myth put it, the answer to that was not very. Like, for either of these teams, no one was really clean throughout all of this. But at the end of the day, whoever's left with, more people standing, or at least more damage standing, is going to be a little bit better. Shoxy, Foxy, Kha'Zix got put into a position where they could just run down the Titan, and if that is what you're left with, that's how you do it.
I will say, look, let's end Game 1 on a good note, positive bit of analysis. I loved seeing the creativity in some of these picks here, in picks and bans. Soul, I mean, we talked about how it felt like a Renegades draft there for JustF6 with the Apollo and Ratatosker. You know, Barracuda loves Soul, so if that was the Renegades, Barra somehow finding his way onto the Soul instead of the Apollo. Like seeing the Soul pick. Zhang Kui, you never get to see the pick, but happy we got to see it here in Game 1. So the creativity was there, so that's a bit of a silver lining, I think, then, at the end of Game 1. Wouldn't be surprised, though, Gore, after all of the chaos and the dust has now settled after Game 1, maybe return to some normalcy in some of those offshoot picks here for game number 2. Maybe something a little bit more standard in the mid lane. I mean, Zhang Kui got the win, but maybe not as much damage that you'd hope out of your mid laner. So I'm interested to see where we start to pivot in some of the picks and bans for game number 2. And hey, we'll get the answer right now. JustF6 still in that first pick spot. Unless, Gore, maybe you want to see Zhang Kui again here in Game 2. I don't know if it was fun enough to watch that you want him back-to-back, but I like the offshoot pick, and then maybe let's return to some normalcy then for Game 2.
Yeah, that's where I will admit I'm lost. It's so weird to say I don't want them to go back to the picks they had, because they did win their game, right? So it is that, like, balance of, well, I don't like what you locked in, but you made it work. Well, made it work is definitely going to be loosely used here. But I do think that there's room for them to maybe flex back into it, right? I don't know that you're going to get down here, and if you're your Snake Hunters first pick, lock in Zhang Kui, but there's definitely a room where you go for it. And like you said, going into some of those quote-unquote lesser picks, the picks that we don't get to see too often, especially when all the bans are still meta, just showcases that maybe they're anticipating something else being picked up that's a little more powerful. Once again, like, Set has been a conversation piece, Tsukuyomi a conversation piece in the jungle, both of them still available, so ideally you get both of them in this game.
Well, still a chance for the Zhang Kui run back, but right now it's going to be Tier to start things off. Athena continues to get banned, Sun Wukong in that category as well. The year of the solo laners continues early on in Season 8. Can't complain, though. I mean, I've loved watching some of the dominance come out of that lane, and Gore, we've talked about it a couple of times today. When the SPL kicks off here in a week and a day, some of those solo laners are going to have a heyday, I think. Cannot wait for that to kick off. Apollo, first pick here for the Snake Hunters, immediately followed up by the Tsukuyomi. So Apollo Ratatosker was the combo there in game 1 for JustF6. This time around, though, the Tsukuyomi still the pick for the Snake Hunters, but they're going to get themselves the Apollo instead of the Cupid.
And honestly, I like this, right? Apollo Tsukuyomi, I'm having trouble arguing against it. And again, look, we keep mentioning the Renegades. First off, I'm going to update it. The Bolts now, I got to make sure we get the proper branding for them, right?
That's right,
that's right. To the SBL with the new name. If this Khepri isn't locked in, that's Jake playing Tyr, and that's Lasber playing Ratatosker, right? Like, I mean, hands down. And honestly, I wouldn't mind, like, JustF6, I don't know what your players are like, I don't know what your support's like, but I like seeing that kind of stuff, especially if you can make it work. But here, going, again, Tyr solo, more than likely up against the Cerberus, going to struggle in some of the healing department, but not going to necessarily struggle in pretty much anything else. Ratatosker, we just saw, if you are willing to chase down kills, you'll find them.
Yep.
If you're going to split push a right-hand Phoenix while your team is fighting on the other side of the map, you'll do it. But I like the fact that they're going for it because it's someone who can traverse the map pretty quickly. That Khepri is going to present, I think, a unique problem here as well. The Hug Bug not only gives good setup, but that capability of giving somebody else another life, it's just so frustrating. If you're Snake Hunters here, that's going to be the biggest frustration point on this team.
Yep.
You almost kill Ratatosker while he's still alive. Not only that, but he might be back in the fight depending on what they go for. So I like the juggling so far from JustF6.
Sure. Well, look, maybe Ratatosker is a little more successful in his split pushing and chasing if he had bought boots at any point there in game 1. Never saw him in the saw him in the Rat build. So maybe we consider something like that here in game number 2. Jokes aside, Baba Yaga Gore, yes, that's what I'm talking about. That is just enough spice, right? I love kind of these niche picks. You're like, all right, this can work, right? Jean Kui certainly out there, got to win, but I don't know if it's because or despite. Baba Yaga, we have seen success. If you talk about long games that provide high damage numbers, Baba Yaga can get there as she scales up.
Look, I don't want to jinx Finch and Mifflin, but yeah, if you're going to go to another 46-minute game, Baba Yaga might be one of the best ones to have on your side, right? Like, she's just going to hit like a truck in that late-game potential. And that's what I like about her. There is, again, when it comes to competitive play, you have to deal with some random nature and abilities and things like that, but it gives her an interesting flow to the fight. So I'm really happy to watch that one. But look, on her Soul, again, we saw what Soul mid does. It's going to suffer a little bit in the early game, but it's up against Baba Yaga, so it's maybe not necessarily the end of the world. Both of them are going to scale a little bit later into that late game.
Whoa.
But I actually really like the Khepri on her. That might be my favorite lane that we've gotten to see in the duo all day. I think that's going to be really fun to watch up against this, I'm assuming, Xingqian Apollo.
Yeah, the ability to chain that CC and abduct into a pillar, into a stun. I mean, the kill potential is absolutely there. Khepri certainly not a passive guardian and all. I mean, you think of Khepri as defensive, kind of on the back lines, revive. He'll get in there. He'll get some kills. He'll set up some damage for the rest of your team if you give him the potential to do so. Soul rounding out the draft here, Gore. So I'm assuming it's Soul versus Baba Yaga in the mid lane. What do you think of that matchup?
Again, it's something that I think is going to be an interesting dynamic. Baba Yaga should be able to take some control of it early on, but this is one that I really think falls under the junglers, right? Like, I think Tsukuyomi is going to have a tough time locking down Soul, but Ratatosker might have an easier time locking down Baba Yaga. She's got a pretty solid escape there, jumping into a cauldron and blasting off into whatever direction she wills. So it's going to be difficult for either of them to get locked down, and they also have, like, very similar scaling. I think Baba Yaga, her damage will ramp up a lot higher towards the late end, but Soul will be a little more consistent with it, and that's going to be the key. If consistency becomes the problem, and if you're looking at a sub 30-minute game, JustF6 I think are going to be able to kind of find their own home there. Otherwise, at that like 20-25 minute mark, when Baba Yaga's in the middle of these team fights and you got ults flying through, the proper potions being used as well, that's where her damage is going to just skyrocket, and it might be overwhelming and too difficult to handle for JustF6.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see the length of this game, right? It does seem like there's kind of this inflection point that'll maybe change things around. JustF6, look, they were in it till the end there. Miracle Titan defense keeps them right in game number 1. Got to be a bit frustrating to lose a game like that, but I think a good takeaway is that you didn't necessarily get blown out of the water. So you go back to a Soul here in this game. Ratatosker comes by as well, but Gore, I think I'm very interested in the fact that this is our first look at Xingqian, a popular pick there in Season 7.
Yeah.
Making his first appearance in Season 8.
And he's in that really middle ground. Again, like, depending on your supports, it kind of falls in that he's aggressive, but he doesn't have a lot of self-sustain or like that survivability that we see out of others. I say that, of course, he has 2 leaps. He has a lot to be able to get in and get out. It'll be fun to watch how Snake Hunters may handle him here.
Let's see how Game 2 turns out. Right back down to your favorite commentators, Finch and Miff.
Thank you, Dolson and Gore, for providing the professionalism I left by the wayside 38 minutes ago. We move into game number 2 here between JustF6 and Snake Hunter. Still Finch and Mifflin here. And Miff, I think they hit on some good points. If you're JustF6, aptly named for a team that refused to give up, you just went really deep into the game, right? 44, 45 minutes or so. And it was close the whole way. You always had a shot. Do those weigh on you more, or do you use that as some comfort that, you were close to getting this job done, you can do it now?
Well, Finch, I think you might be asking the wrong guy because I have got the softest mental this side of the sun. But here's the thing, Finch. It's a binary scale. Is it 45 minutes? Did I lose? That feels like the worst pain on the planet. Like 10 out of 10 on the suffering scale. I don't care if I was in it or if I was out of it for the full 45 minutes. If I look up and the clock is at 3/4 of an hour and I lost the game, I'm done for the rest of the week.
Well, let's hope that's not the case here for JustF6, who put up a valiant performance in Game 1. I think you might argue they started that valiance 10 minutes late, but better late than never, man. And boy, did they show up once they did. They gave Snake Hunters a real run for their money to the point where I was surprised when the team I thought would win the late game started winning the late game. So 100% on board with this JustF6 team, finding a way to get it done here. Still rocking Sodos on that sole mid. He looked great on it last game. I don't have any complaints there. But Rotwin completely flipping the script. Instead of this aggressive near solo potential Amir, he's on Capri, a facilitator, a setup god who keeps his team alive. Is that a big adjustment mentally for these supports, going from an Amir to a Capri?
It's very different because you're not playing that initiator role, as you already said. Instead, he has to shift his focus more so towards peeling out the back line. But I think when there was a clear top pick on your team in the last match for JustF6 inside of Sodos, you want to be able to facilitate him as best you can. Giving him a Scarab's Blessing might just be the answer.
I think that it's a good move, though, that Coast has this Apollo away from Toddy. What a nightmare he was alongside Roulat, spreading out this map, splitting up the team fights, and forcing Snake Hunter to move around. Now when Roulat tries that, Coast can just ride on over, or likely be there with him the whole time, and then ult over to the fight where it's happening elsewhere, right? I mean, I think there's great opportunity for him to keep up, and don't even get me started on Listemics on this tier. I think I might want to perma-see him on this pick. He had me geeking at that Fire Giant fight. I thought he was about to steal it away. He looked great on it all game. I love what both of these teams have done in terms of adjustments.
Yeah, can't forget about that 4-man Fearless to save the game as well. Listemic certainly
Yeah.
has plenty of experience on this pick, but across the board, I think even Snake Hunters have come away with a much better draft this time around. I think Gunter's going to benefit from playing a standard mage, looking more so towards a standard build as well instead of that Anubis Zonqui hybrid that we saw in Game 1. Looks like he's going to go for a stack Baba Yaga build, which just makes sense with her passive, the house, affording her just free stacks whenever you're standing near it. You've got Shoxy Foxy playing a more initiator role inside of Jing Shen, going to be able to burn those beads with the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel incredibly easily to set up for Kha'Zix's Stygian Torment, or even, as you already highlighted, Vaporish Coast going to have the rotational advantage as well. I think Snake Hunters is certainly coming with a draft that can bring the fight a little bit earlier than we saw in Game 1.
Yeah, I think both teams kept the best pieces and then improved the worst ones. It's really hard to ask for more of a mid-set adjustment than this. It looked like JustF6 were getting aggressive for a blue buff invade. That did not pan out. Remember, that was JustF6's go-to back at the beginning of Game 1. It feels so long ago, was to really look for invades onto those buffs on the other side of the map. Would not be surprised if they kept that up here again.
Yeah, especially considering Roulat's already back on that Ratatasker. We can even expect him to go for the split push as he did in Game 1. He needs that global ultimate available to him, but as of right now, it seems like the pace is going to largely equalize. Hard to kind of remember back in Game 1 that it started off a little bit slower considering how crazy that pace got towards the end of it, but both of these teams take a very measured approach to the early game. But keep your eyes on Toddy GR inside of this lane. He's playing a much more fight-centric pick this time around. It shouldn't be nearly as one-sided as we saw the Cupid-Apollo matchup.
Wow, I'm surprised Rapio backed off there. What did he see that he didn't like? He was coming over for the gank. It seemed well-timed. Rotwin had just dropped the dash in lane, and he has that information, but elects to come back towards Gunter almost on a dime. I wonder if that was a team call, or if he just didn't like his odds over there in duo any longer. Either way, he comes right back over towards mid, gets right to farming. And as you said, I want Toddy showing us this time on a more aggressive pick that he's looking to throw hands in lane. Onher is so good at it, especially as Dave pointed out very aptly on the desk with that combo with Khepri abduct into basically the freest pillar impale of your life. So I'm excited to see them get a little bit more aggressive.
I'm actually shook to my core that we saw Roulat not actually elect to go for the dual lane gank there. He's already got the full Acorn upgraded. He was standing inside the Gold Fury pit. Vaporish and Shoxy are both level 4. Tony GR was level 5, as was Roulat. That ultimate could have spelled doom for the dual lane of Snake Hunters, but instead rotates on back over. I didn't realize the speed buff was up. That's the jungler's MO. That's where you gotta be. If that thing's alive, you're misplaying as a jungle, obviously, so gotta clear that one out immediately.
Yeah, I thought coming into this year we'd see them with junglers on time for blue buff more than anything else, but they're on time for speed as always, prioritizing what helps them do their farming and ganking the most. So the start of this game's a little slow, but no complaints because I know what's going to happen. I think for the 21-minute mark, from then on, it was Crazy Town bonkers pants the whole rest of the game, man. It was just an absolute... What's wrong, man? You're going to complain about me trying to label what happened last game? Let me hear yours. Go ahead.
It was a crazy mud bath. I don't know, I got like a flashback to a Blazybard cast, right? You could have told me that Blazybard possessed your body and said, what was that? Lazy Town bonkers pants? I'm sorry, you threw me for a loop, bud.
Yeah, I didn't mean to shake you to your core there, but yeah, I'll happily channel my inner Blazy there for a little bit here on the cast. Won't hear me complaining. As Myth, we talked about this a little bit last game, but this Gauntlet of Thieves rush has really become the go-to for these supports nowadays, hasn't it? Especially when you're not on maybe a traditional aggressive support, right? Like a warrior in that role. And it has limited some of what they can do in the early game, but it's just about the best tanky item you can look for starting off a game.
It does. It's kind of reminiscent of what we saw back in Season 4, back when Thieves was first added. That really was the start. We got to rush that. We need that defense as quickly as possible, and that seems to be the plan.
Kha'Zix is better, by the way, as he ends up blowing up Lastimics. You thought you were ganking me, I'm ganking you. You come dunking down and perfectly times the Stygian Torment.
Lastimics had ult, dog! It gives you CC immunity. Lawbringer makes you glow gold and cannot be CC'd. Stygian Torment is a reactable ability. If we were speaking in FGC terms, that's like 80 frames of prep time, like a full second, where you can make sure you don't get pulled in there. But unfortunately, he just makes his home in the tower. That's First Blood, Lastimics. We were just singing your praises, homie. You were looking so good in Game 1, but falling there, that's an error. A blunder, if you will.
Yeah, I mean... My man Kha'Zix is like, listen, I'm going to do this for the CC immunity. No kills are coming up, though, for my man, right? But unfortunately, both Lastimics and Roulat kind of just get caught up in it, don't they? Yeah, he just timed it. That's what I'm saying. He was using it to get back to tower. Not for free kills, but it was there.
Yeah, my man was like, all right, I can't win this fight. Roulat's dunking. I'm not about it. And he just walks out with a kill and puts Roulat down. That's a nutty situation. Snake Hunters gotta be chuckling. Kha'Zix in particular gotta be chuckling himself about how that one goes. And look what it results in already. A 2-level lead in favor of Cerberus, who's already got a fantastic matchup in the tier. Gonna benefit from the anti-heal that he already has. Gonna get some of that sustain coming his way, matched up with Tainted Steel. Lastimics is gonna have a very hard time in this lane.
Yeah, a lot of what Tier likes to do just went out of the window, didn't it? And Rat, he would have loved to have started that game off with using his ultimate for a kill. I mean, maybe that's why my man was hesitant in game number 1. He knows Kha'Zix and Coast are just heat, man, and he doesn't want to step into the kitchen if he's not ready. But this time he went for it early, was trying to get Rat off to a good start, and Kha'Zix just ended up getting the better of him and Lastimics, only getting the kill on his solo opponent, but certainly still a strong one.
Look, I understand Roulat not wanting to fight in the 3v3 because Isotos is literally playing Soul. Just does not match the damage output that Gunter should be able to bring. I understand that on a very deep level. But situations like we just saw in Solo generally should not happen. And we should really start putting some effort into shutting down Vaporish Coast over there, especially considering Tony GR is playing the more aggressive Hunter. He's got the boots advantage, he's got the stacks advantage. All he needs is a little bit of an edge from his jungler to find some kills onto this Apollo. It's a fantastic matchup. Rat and Onher versus Apollo, it just goes their way every time.
I only just remembered that watching a Soul do nothing for 20 minutes takes you literally directly back to Worlds. Young Delta Marine literally being channeled here by Sotos. The MVP of that tournament, the most valuable that sat in front of a keyboard that day was young Delta Marine. We'll talk more about that later on our own time, Biff. Don't even worry about it. But
Can't wait.
is this game still very much close here? I know that Snake Hunters got off to a great start over there in solo, but that does not the end of this game make. And especially, you talked about how they want aggression from Toddy over here. Do they not see what Coast did for the vast majority of Game 1? Don't you want to slow that down at least a little bit? But that has not been the case here so far. Is not able to quite find Rapio there is Listemics. Instead, they'll just come back and defend their blue.
Man, I was shook for a second there. Roulat and Listemics grouped up on their right-hand side together. I was getting some war flashbacks to that Stygian tournament.
Like, you guys sure?
Can't believe he wanted to show up over there. This time, Rapio was around too, so I think power to him backing up in this situation. Both teams seem very contented with this slower pace throughout the early game, kind of reminiscent of Game 1. But I don't think either team is heavily favored come late game this time around. I mean, in Game 1, we said it was going to be Snake Hunters because their ultimates really were late game slanted, as was the composition. But in Game 2, I think come late game, it's still going to be a 50-50 toss.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a chance Rat's a little bit less valuable lane, but I'm not even going to bother disagreeing with you, Myth. When's that ever panned out for me? You're absolutely right, my man. These things are basically dead even when we start moving towards that late game. So it's a lot different from last game where I thought Roulat had some onus on him to get aggressive in the early just because his value would diminish, but we saw that he was still impactful at the 40-minute mark. I'm not going to ride him this time about it. I think they're perfectly fine to kind of take their pace and just make sure they consistently... Oh no, Kha'Zix, how have things gone so much worse than last time? Stygian Torment this time does not work. In comes the Lawbringer, and Kha'Zix does what should have happened the first time and ends up falling to the gank.
Did you see how Ratatasker Roulat used the ultimate to avoid the Stygian Torment CC? That's going to work almost always.
Nearly every time. Rapio forced to drop his Purification Beads, and this turned into a bad gank for Snake Hunters, didn't it? They end up losing Kha'Zix. That evens up the solo lane, and Rapio drops the Purification Beads. He's going to be way less likely to get aggressive for the next 145 seconds as a result of that solo pressure from JustF6.
Yeah, the double blink from Listemics and Roulat means that we're probably not going to expect to see too much happening over there for the next 90 seconds as well. We might see both teams shift their focus more so towards that 3v3 or maybe around these mid camps, because so far JustF6's Sotos has been clearing out the mid camps always. You're right. What was it? 20 minutes into Game 1, I said that I don't think either jungler has crossed the gold free pit, and so far, 12 minutes in, it still rings true here in Game 2.
It has been, but that's just not where these teams are looking for pressure. I've said it before, but I think solo is a perfectly viable place to gank in Season 8, with these solo laners not as tanky for free early in the game as they once were. But that didn't mean duo wasn't an option, so just these two teams not looking for it as Listemics is getting back into the groove here in solo, interrupting Ghastly Breath, getting those big heals. Looks like my man's recovered nicely.
Yeah, he's already back all the way in it, got the level lead, as you already highlighted. It was Kha'Zix 2 levels up just a couple of moments ago, but one gank is all it takes to separate a lane like that. We could see something similar happen in duo lane, but already the Hunters are starting to have a little bit of a divergence here. Odysseus' bow is for Toddy GR in that third slot, whereas Vaporish Coast, if I'm not mistaken, likely going to be moving into that Ikka Veil, looking for that 1v1 yet again. Say what you will about Coast, man, he's always looking to 1v1 his opposition.
Yeah, whoever steps up, he's happy to turn that 1v1 into a pentakill anytime if you'll give it to him. So just be a little bit careful against him. It looks like Snake Hunters recognize the trap being set by Rotwin and Sotos, who's forced to go onto the Disapparate just to disengage. Roulat on his way too, so be careful hard engaging here for your Snake Hunters. They back off, and no further harm comes from it. But these teams are kind of looking for their opportunities to scrap, aren't they? They're keeping their heads down, but if they see something, these two teams will take it.
Yeah, both teams, all 5 members, sporting the black Air Force Ones, just waiting for someone to cross their path, looking at them sideways. But as of right now, it hasn't happened just yet. I see Gunter going to that magic focus tree. I have said in the past that it is likely going to be Spear of Desolation, but every single time I have been wrong, and it has been Divine Ruin. So I think I'm willing to bet that it's going to go that way yet again, maybe to deal with some of the healing coming through from Soul.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? I mean, you got to worry about Listemic, Soul, Roulat, Toddy, all of them getting a little bit of healing here and there. So they'll try and make sure that that gets slowed down on the side of Snake Hunters. Despite how popular Deso is this year, I mean, it's good. Giving you a ton of power, the same flat pin you get anywhere else, but the CDR is nice. Just not going to be the call here for him this time around. So 14 minutes in, Myth, 2 kills, very similar pace to last time, but Sotos is on the wrong side of the map, but he ran towards his team, and that's where Roulette was. Myth, I see that your teammate's struggling with that all the time, not running towards the team, but those are the beats, and Aegis coming out from Sotos. In comes the aggression from Bakorish Coast. Sotos is low, but they cannot keep up the chase, so instead it's Shoxy in trouble. In comes Rapio, and he dives the backline, cannot find that Kasarigama slow, or stun rather, so that means everyone on JustF6 going to make it out. Is even Gunter dropping the house, getting into the ultimate form, can't quite bring someone down.
Yeah, Gunter shows up a little bit too late, just dropping in the ultimate, trying to saunter on forward. It's the only ability he used in that team fight because he was the last one there, just doesn't quite find his way forward. But Snake Hunters, not one to let an opportunity slip away, are going to go ahead and strip away this Greater Scorpion and prime themselves for a Gold Fury in the future. Double-edged sword, though, completely even game means that it's just as likely that JustF6 get the Gold Fury for themselves.
Yeah, I have not been particularly swayed by the timing on that yet, if I'm being honest. But you got to take it at some point. You know, it does end up helping your own side of the map. Take that farm for yourself, and then try and be there for that Fury next time. But the one who set up for the Fury to spawn in Game 1 was not the one who initially ended up grabbing it once it did. So maybe that's just a built-in cost. You know, you just sort of accept that you're not going to be the one that always gets that Fury. Just go ahead and put it up on the map, you know.
And now they've created a POI. Now whichever team gets the defensive positioning can at least force an engagement. As we get a pretty good look at Baba Yaga's tree, or house rather, in this skin, actually pretty neat, as all
I love it.
are. Yeah, it's really good, and it's
like the Dr. Vaughn skin, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, maybe like an assistant vibe.
What? She could be her own doctor.
Wait, don't turn this. Well, hold on. All right, yeah, she. Wait, who's to say that? Oh.
Obviously joking with there, but I'm right there with you. Certainly could be working with them or doing her own thing, whatever she'd like to do. I'm sure she would. As Gunter, stacking, as you already pointed out, has that Book of Thoth right where she wants it, alongside allowing the house. It is its own sort of secret lab, isn't it, the house she's carrying around with. I love this skin. I can't believe I didn't notice before. Thank you, Mitt, for pointing it out, but certainly a good one there for him. We'll see how Gunter elects to use later on this Baba Yaga, who can be high variance, right? But when controlling that variance, I think, is so key to playing her right.
It is, and it is actually going to be the Divine Ruin. I was being a little bit glib with my analysis earlier on, but it is Divine Ruin getting locked in for Gunter here, likely to deal with the lifesteal from Toddy GR as well as Sotos. Both auto attackers going to be sustaining a fair amount in these fights, so you don't want to have them really getting the full value out of it. Divine Ruin as well, a much faster item, not really sacrificing too much power in the build because he's already gone for a Thoth as well. So all in all, I'd say Gunter comes away with a very strong build here.
Yeah, I'd say so too, right? He's going to be in a great position once we start seeing some fights kick off, if they do. Last game, it felt as though someone let off the firing pistol at the 21-minute mark. I wonder if that'll be the same case here in this game, as things have once again been a bit slow to start. But because these teams are so even, and because they're both so team fight oriented with these drafts, we could really see the fireworks going off once they start grouping up around Fire or the Fury. And it looks like the call for Snake Hunters, at least, or one of these teams who's picking out, is to try and grab this Scorpion on the right-hand side. But no one really moving towards it yet, so even though the pings are there, they're not looking to try and grab it just yet.
Look at the vision control around the Gold Fury. On top of Gold Fury itself, Snake Hunters all the way, but all that peripheral vision around the mid camps and elsewhere, just a full loop around Gold Fury is favoring JustF6, a very interesting strategy. Both teams should know if either one groups up defensively. Looks like it's going to be JustF6 confirming the oracles for themselves, but don't have a sentry in pocket to deal with what the Snake Hunters have there. So instead of going for the Gold Fury and forcing a fight, they immediately reset, and I have to agree with that decision.
Yeah, it makes sense. It looks for a moment like Rotwin was considering starting it up, but the team wasn't quite there with them, so they dropped the Fury at this point. But look at this. Snake Hunters are now the team moving in, looking for sufficient positioning around it. Kha'Zix is here. All 10 members are on this left-hand side of the map as the Fury is down to half HP.
God.
An all-in commitment, it looks like, from Snake Hunters is Foxy. Foxy gets aggressive on the zone, but they have to drop the Fury. Not enough to keep JustF6 at bay.
Yeah, Shoxy Foxy missing 10%, nearly 15% of his HP. That's a abduct and 2 auto attacks from Soul Telkines in that first slot, dealing so much damage for him. It looks like he's going to be moving into Demonic Grip next up overall. If Sotos is left alone with his Gold Fury for any period of time longer than 15 seconds, it's going down.
There's the blink in from Kha'Zix. That's going to force the beads out from Soto. So that's time for the all-in, but a great impale from Toddy slows it down. Meanwhile, in the back, Listimics trying to do a bit of a dive of his own. It's a question of which solo laner can win their prolonged 1v3 longer. Looks like they both give up on him. Snake Hunters have regrouped, but in comes Roulat, finding the dunk, and that is trouble for Shakti Foxy, who uses the shell to keep him alive. Plus, the Kepri ult means somehow everyone still draws breath.
But Gunter is still incredibly healthy, as is Rapio and Vaporish Coast, so JustF6 cannot move forward any longer. Every ultimate expended by the Order side team, whereas Snake Hunters maintain a good deal of their ultimates. They could look to re-engage this fight almost immediately. I would say that it would be the best call because they have such an advantage moving forward from here. I think, if anything, I really need to see Snake Hunters go to this Gold Fury. JustF6 is running on fumes.
Try and force JustF6 into a tough battle then and grab this objective while you can. If you're on the side here as Snake Hunters. They found that game 1 victory, but I'm sure they remember even better than us that it just didn't come easily. So they're going to try for any advantage they can get. Fury is the call. They have it down to half. On the way is JustF6. The Simics and Toddy on the outside, but Sotos is the target. They know his beads are down, so they want to lock him down, but Snake Hunters still do not all in commit. They're going about this slowly and collectedly, Mifflin. They're not trying to all in and throw this game away.
But the slower they go, they give JustF6 time to get their resources back and available. The reason Snake Hunters are allowed to take this fight is because they have an opportunity where JustF6 are just weaker. They need to go quickly.
Kha'Zix only able to get one with the Stygian Torment that time as Listimics avoids it well, and Rotwin doesn't even really get pulled. He just is picked up and placed back down. So back to the Gold Fury dance we go. And now I'm starting to think one of these teams is going to need this fight to go handily in their favor. Because just the Fury 21 minutes in, I mean, it ain't backbreaking. You might not even really stop twice to think about it here, Miff, because so much time has passed. I mean, the stakes are getting slower as the time goes on.
And already, JustF6 have got their advantage back. They've reestablished Oracle Vision, their ultimates are available to them as well, and they've got the benefit of having the best split push Ratatasker this side of the Mississippi. I mean, he's going to be able to strip away these towers easily and split up the map. But as you already said, even if they win the fight cleanly, even if they do get Gold Fury for either team, because the Greater Scorpion still stands on the Fire Giant side, there is no greater neutral objective. There's nothing better to fall back towards. Someone has to go over there and clear it out so that they can really do something off a one-team fight.
Yeah, not a whole lot's going to come from this one unless there's some casualties on one side, I suppose. The Fury itself not really going to dictate the further pace of this game, I don't think. Not at this point. But both teams are still hanging around it. You definitely don't want to just give that gold to the other side for free. As now the Relic's starting to come back up. Roulat about to get his back. Sotos has his beads back up as well. With a little bit of time on Rotwin, well elected for the beads in his second slot, knowing just how much trouble there was on the other side. Those are still down. But for the most part, as you said, not just the vision and getting the ultimates back, but even the bigger cooldowns, the Relics have been removed. So if I'm Snake Hunters, I don't go into this fight thinking I have a ton of an advantage.
Keep your eyes on that right-hand side. Vaporish Coast going for a split push, and it looks like Roulat is the one they send over to stop him. The second Coast sees him. He should ult over and rejoin the fight.
Let's take a look. Coast is backing up for now. Fury has been dropped. The Stygian Torment collects Rotwin, who takes negligible damage coming out from Gunter on the backside of the fight. So Rotwin makes it back to his team, a little worse for wear, but no trouble as Listimics scheming up the action. In comes Vaporish Coast. He dunks down in the back, and they have to get the tier, but he's over the wall with the low bring easily for him as he has to use the beads to get away from Kha'Zix. Low, but still standing. That's the Fury now in the sights of Snake Hunters.
Snake Hunters still incredibly healthy and have the Piercing Moonlight as well as the Baba Yaga ultimate available. If we see JustF6 re-engage, they as well have some tools available to them. But Kha'Zix getting stunned out there, so low.
Roulat goes into the ultimate. Did he want to chase that kill? No, instead he stays local. Now they're going to come in on the Shakti Foxy. There's the ultimate coming down, and somehow the Xing Chen pilot makes his way back out of trouble. If we've been battling for actually 5 minutes over the Fury, and still there's been no bloodshed.
I can guarantee you that no Gold Fury in history has taken as much damage as this specific one. It's regened so consistently, but finally JustF6 able to break the stalemate and strip away the Gold Fury, netting them about a 1,500, nearly 2,000 gold lead at the 24-minute mark. Means a little bit less than it would have 5 minutes ago when that dance started, but certainly finally removing that neutral objective from the map means that we can start looking elsewhere, maybe towards the Greater Scorpion on the Fire Giant or towards one of these towers to establish map dominance.
Yeah, I have to think that's more of a mental victory than a tactical advantage at this point in the game here for JustF6. They were able to execute their aggression to force SCC out and Kha'Zix, and that opened up for them to get the Fury. And they know how quickly their team can burn objectives with both Sodos and Toddy playing these attack speed characters, these auto attack focused characters who can burn through objectives quickly. If I'm JustF6, the most valuable thing I got just now is the knowledge of how quickly we could burn a fire giant, even without even winning the fight outright, just kind of forcing a couple members out of the fight.
Interesting that Vampiric Shroud is going to be the starter item selected by Sodos in that 5th slot after finishing up the Demonic Grip. I would have expected it to be something a little bit more auto-attack centric, a Death Toll, or maybe even a Conduit Gem, something along those lines to help him out with power. But last time we did see Sacrificial Shroud did get picked up, so I'm excited to see where he decides to go with that one, but certainly decent stats in of itself just for an item pickup if he thinks the next fight is going to be the most important. JustF6 are going to go ahead and take that proactive play and clear out the Greater Scorpions themselves. I think we can expect another pretty long dance around a neutral objective.
Yeah, I'd expect so too. I was worried we might not clear the Scorpion until it was the Enhanced Fire Giant coming out of it. But no, we're going to go ahead and drop it a little bit sooner. We'll be seeing our normal Fire Giant-y friend in just a moment. And then we'll be having ourselves another dance. But if you're JustF6, you have to remember in the back of your minds, you're putting so much pressure on the objective with all this damage from Sodos and Toddy. Snake Hunters have got to defend cleanly, or they'll lose the objective in a blink.
Rapio now isolated, but the abduct off the mark. Finally, Fearless able to strip away those bees, but Rapio's got those juke shoes on, able to escape out of that situation easily.
But in comes Roulat, using that through the Cosmos to make his way to the backline. That's still not enough for the guarantee to kill as Roulat's locked down by the stun coming through from Kha'Zix. But great work with the Scarab's Blessing. That'll keep him alive, and Rotwin should be able to get his boy out. But now it's Coast's turn to dive into the backline. Good stun. Buys Roulat some time, and the Supernova buries Coast before he can get any more damage off. Sodos is the one that finds the first kill of that engagement. Look where Toddy is, looping around the back of the engagement, saying hello to SCC, who's forced to go further into enemy territory to escape.
And now it's just Lestemics zoning off 3 on his own. Gunter, Kha'Zix, and Rapio starting to retreat towards their own side of the base. SCC able to make his way back home, but that leaves the Fire Giant exposed. 26 minutes in, Toddy, GR, and Sodos can do it on their own.
Yeah, they can burn this, man. They have the DPS, and it is not close. Kha'Zix is going to try and make his way in, but way too late. JustF6 win the battle much faster than we thought. They might even do more than win the battle. Gunter falls to Roulat, weighing in the backline, and JustF6 have a chance to clear a path towards some of these towers.
And now Rapio finds Roulat, gets a double kill. Kha'Zix, you've been left alone inside your tower, bud. Stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's going to be Toddy GR benefiting from the kill there. Fire Giant on 5, 3 dead for 40 seconds. I foresee a Phoenix on the menu in the very near future.
Yeah, what a great fight from JustF6, and one of the cleanest fights we've seen all set long, by doing a great job of punishing some of this over-aggression from Snake Hunters and using this mobility of Roulat to get to the back line as well. So great work from JustF6. Now the tier 2 tower is going to come down, and of course, moving right on to threatening the Phoenix. Plus, they've got Roulat threatening mid simultaneously. Great work spreading out the map, and yeah, I don't know how Coast and SCC defend this one on their lonesome. At the best, they can try and take away some relics. There is the ultimate Whirlwind of Raids and Steel grabs too, but right side Phoenix is already a distant memory, and the mid tier 2 is right behind it.
Man, such a large gold swing in favor of JustF6. Now 10k ahead here, but Golden Pocket makes not for a lead. They're going to have to make their way back to base to spend that up, but it might as well go ahead and pick up a Pyromancer for your trouble as well. Only 2 towers standing between JustF6 and the fully exposed base of Snake Hunters. I don't think we see him put up a defense anywhere besides a Phoenix, if you ask me.
No, I don't think so either. And JustF6 with a great opportunity to extend this set out a little further and gives themselves a shot to absolutely win this one over a really strong Snake Hunters team. What a set it's been, back and forth. No one really clearly better than the other team or anything like this, my man. This is 2 very evenly matched squads duking it out, hands up, no defense, just trading blows. And right now, JustF6 have sent a haymaker to Snake Hunters. They're going to have a hard time recovering from it.
look at the Snake Hunters standing behind him. Soto steps too far forward. The flank works out for him. Now Tony GR exposed and alone. Piercing Moonlight closes the gap.
He's already dropped the relics. Good impale gives him some breathing room as in comes Coast to try and clamp some kills. Gunter gets himself a double kill. Myth, what is this? It's a collapse of epic proportions from JustF6. They had fire, they had the gold lead, they had everything in their favor, and still it falls by the wayside before Snake Hunters and their ruthless aggression.
But I just don't know why JustF6 is going for a Primal Fury when they have Fire Giant as 5 and the right side Phoenix down already. Primal Fury, by the way, for the fans at home who are newer to Smite, helps you clear out jungle bosses like Fire Giant, like Pyromancer, both dead, by the way. Normally we'd see them go for the tower there, but just a fantastic flank, turns it around.
But now they're struggling on this push. Rotwin drops the ultimate on himself, tries to dance around on the Caltrops, doesn't get the res. Meanwhile, Kha'Zix remembers he's not here. The reason he's not here is he's defending their solo side Phoenix, making sure the minions can't push up by themselves. So Snake Hunters don't quite get their own Phoenix. They don't quite pull the game entirely back in their favor, but that is a big answer back. Just about everything they could have asked for, I think, to try and defend up against that Fire Giant team. And with this Primal Fury, they'll close the gap even more, as somehow Snake Hunters find their way right back into this one.
Looks like JustF6 are working their way forward here. Gonna make it at least a little bit hard for them to back. Nope, instead gonna go ahead and return back to pushing it up. Even with Fire Giant just on Rotwin and Toddy GR with the gold lead that JustF6 already has, I think they could still at least look to strip away a tier 1 tower as well as the tier 2 before they start to regroup around this Fire Giant, is what I would say if the buff wasn't wearing off in exactly 6 seconds.
They should still at least be able to get the tier 1. They don't exactly know it, but Snake Hunters are nowhere nearby. Even the tier 2 as well as they move up efficiently, and Snake Hunters still are not in position to play their cards properly and to set up their defense. Meanwhile, Roulat, way off on his own on a solo mission, looking to split the focus of Snake Hunters. So this is the tier 2 in left, and that really extends this lead for JustF6. And it looks like they even want to push this into a Phoenix push. Yeah, I like the idea of maybe resetting here. But yeah, it looks like that's going to be the call. They're going to back off, not going to force this Phoenix without a Fire Giant around their waist.
8,000 gold separates these two squads, but right side Phoenix for Snake Hunters is respawning very soon. Expect someone over there to clear out that last fire wave coming their way, and then regroup around this Fire Giant. Should be a completely even fight. I think Doug's right to hover Roulat here. I'm very curious to see where this Ratatasker goes. Do we see him reprise that split push role that we saw in Game 1? Is he going to join the team fight and try and shut down the back line here in Game 2? It's going to be very curious, but it's going to be indicative of how confident JustF6 is looking towards this objective. We saw them struggling at this exact point with this exact lead in Game 1.
And Snake Hunters are going to be in position to defend on fire. They got to be careful they don't hard commit too soon, though. You really want JustF6 dealing with this enhanced FG, and then you kind of step in and maybe look for a chance to turn this fight around. Wow, this set's tension is palpable, though, isn't it? As Shotzzy Foxy moves in first, but Soul is absolutely swinging as Sotos puts in the hurt. Foxy has to retreat, so does Gunter, but it's Roulat that's looking for his chance to re-engage, finds the knockup, gets caught by the Stygian Torment, and takes a ton of damage, gets that Desert Fury. Someone sent in damage too soon, and that gives him his chance to get back out. But Rapio re-engages with the ultimate, looking for a chance to step back into his fight. Coast moves in too, and Snake Hunters have a chance to turn this game on its head as they put down Toddy first, and now looking for a chance to get Rotwin as well. He's low. Coast gets the double. The Pinna Kid does it again, turning around the game.
Sotos now taking the 1v1 up against Kha'Zix and loses it inside of his own tower. The Cerberus picking up another kill for his team. You're absolutely right, though, Finch. It is Vaporish Coast through and through that completely changes the face of that team fight. Now, Roulat trying to reprise his role as the split push king, realizes that Rapio's already there, but the rest of Snake Hunters are low. This Ratatasker might be able to make some plays.
This is a chance for him. Roulat has to make a play here. They desperately need it on the side of JustF6. He goes up to the sky. Fire Giant already secured, so now he's going to look for the picks instead. Roulat, you certainly need something. You have to take Fire Giant off someone. But instead, he retreats. Myth, you got to make the call there for me. Is it worth his life to go in and try and get a buff there, or is he right to retreat?
I think with timers as they are, his team respawning the next 10 seconds, and with a potential peel coming through from Lestemix, who is only a couple feet away, you gotta dunk in there. You gotta deal with some of the pressure coming your way. If you are able to take a tank Fire Giant buff off, that means you don't have to deal with that sustain. They're not gonna be able to siege your Phoenixes nearly as easily. There's no true healing on the side of Snake Hunters. Fire Giant would have been a huge boon for him. You take it off a Hunter, or even potentially the Assassin, that means that you're gonna have a much easier time keeping Sotos alive. I think Roulat may have missed an opportunity there. It's a guaranteed kill with the relics as they are on the side of Snake Hunters.
If I made a miscalculation, I started talking about Game 3 and potentially extending this set for JustF6, but I've spoken too soon. From the concrete comes Snake Hunters responding to JustF6 aggression. Now they can look for a push of their own. They're grouped up with plenty of time left for the buff. Roulat lurking around the corner, but I doubt he pulls the trigger this soon. A soft defense on this mid T2, but not even that. Complete retreat from JustF6 back to the Phoenixes. And if you're Snake Hunters here, Myth, do you just go straight for the Phoenix? Do you go get this right tier 2 first? How do you approach this siege? It looks like they're fully retreating. Maybe you want to spend some gold or even grab a Fury if it spawns.
It may be looking towards the Oni Fury here just to split up the map a little bit, but I do appreciate the call from Snake Hunters to back up and push up another wave. In this situation, I think you have to try and split up the map a little bit, try and get that 4-1 split, and make sure that JustF6 can't take you in the true 5v5, because that's where they're at their strongest, with the backline disruption from the tier, the single target damage from Todi GR and Sotos together, as well as the free safety net that is Scarab's Blessing that's been used so masterfully to make sure Roulat can dive in whenever he wants. It looks like it is going to be the Oni Fury to split up the map, taking a play from Sanguine's book in Season 7. They love clearing this one out, just making it that much easier from the siege in these Phoenixes. But now's the time to use this Fire Giant. You have to play with the heat while you have it. I want to see Snake Hunters start to work their way towards the base of JustF6.
And Rapio has really taken the pressure on their solo side Phoenix, on the Chaos Team solo side Phoenix, seriously. He's been over there making sure the wave doesn't get pushed up. And even now, it is pushed up in favor of JustF6. But with the Oni wave spawning, that'll help. Now the team can more comfortably push up exactly as you asked for. A 4-1 split seems to be in the cards. They've got Rapio in mid. And they have Kha'Zix, maybe even a 3-2 split here for them, as Coast and the boys are here in duo. And then Kha'Zix and Rapio over in mid. So for now, JustF6 must split up their forces.
Looks like it's going to be Roulat and Lestemix on the defense here. Smart to send the Ratatasker over, who can rotate over to wherever he's needed expeditiously. But Lestemix, though, I think I would rather see him with the core of the team, is already stepping too far forward, Bud, losing out on 50% of his HP bar.
Yeah, if he doesn't find that fearless, he's just standing in damage up there as the mid-Phoenix threatens. The mid-Phoenix is gone. Excellence from Snake Hunters in the mid. Now they can rejoin their boys. Torment does force the relics out from Sotos as well as another, but that means there's too much damage in the backline. Rapio is the one in danger of falling, and Sotos gets Coast and Rapio, a double from the sole player from JustF6, and with that Scarab's Blessing on his shoulders, Lestemix gets aggressive, but Gunter has found one kill. Gunter close to finding a second, but it's Kha'Zix that does the last bit of damage. As in comes the Lawbringer, immediately cancel down Lestemix, trades his life away. Kha'Zix gets a double of his own. 3 for 2 in favor of Snake Hunters. Make it 4, as this game might have just ended.
Hunter's damage, too much to deal with. Roulat,
he's
why
dead?
Are you still here? Why are you at 10% HP?
Wow.
You had time to get back to base, but he does not get punished this time around. The blink gonna keep him alive, and take a peek at those HP bars, man. Gunter and Shoxy so low. I'm not sure what I do in this situation. They can at least strip away this bird, but no way they fight the Roulat.
If they got that kill on a Roulat, I think the game might have been over, but without that, it's too much pressure here from them for them to bring in Gunter this low, for them to bring in Shoxy this low. So instead, they'll happily, I think, take those 2 Phoenixes traded out and then make their way back. What a fight there, Myth, from Gunter. But we can't even talk about this fight still happening! What is he doing, Roulat? I discussed it as if there was no chance he'd keep fighting, but he gives his life away. Great work from Kha'Zix, who's been an absolute beast this game. And Myth, you got to break down that last fight there for me and how it goes so handily for Snake Hunters.
Finch, sorry, I've been dragged into the muck, bud. I gotta say it, I explained it at the 10-minute mark. Stygian Torment has legitimately like 7,000 frames of windup, and Roulat has the ultimate. Just use it to CC immune out of there. Unfortunately, though, has not learned his lesson from earlier on in the game. First Blood was enough, or was not enough, rather, of a reminder on how that mechanic works. Roulat losing out on his life. But to break it down, it just felt like really, JustF6 was not prepared for that 3-2 split. They didn't utilize their tools properly, and Listimics off that initial Fearless, losing his own Phoenix off of it, from there, JustF6 was on the back foot the entire time.
Yeah, even with great damage from Sotos, Gunter matched it with some excellent help from Kha'Zix, who's near earning an MVP vote for me on Snake Hunters with the way he's playing this Cerberus here in this game. But that's only if Snake Hunters will win. I mean, we still don't know how it's going to go. It could go to JustF6 just as easily if they're able to find a big fight here at the Fire Giant. We can only enjoy what's unfolding before us as Snake Hunters start up the fire. Mid and left Phoenix down for JustF6, or they send Roulat back to defend and make sure they don't just lose the game to minions as Snake Hunters keep up the pressure. And it looks like JustF6 is not going to fully engage. They're putting up a soft defense on the objective, just letting Listimics come up this far.
Look at Sotos finally making the rotation in to join his team. Fire Giant getting really low. Listimics works his way forward, but Snake Hunters confirm it for themselves.
Yeah, that's huge for them now. They can take this fight as JustF6 have engaged too far. Rapio, though, catching the hands from Toddy, who nearly gets the job done, but Kha'Zix again steps up to the plate and finds a kill. Rapio gets the second, and you can feel the walls crumbling around JustF6 as Snake Hunters unrelenting step forward. Gunter gets another. The killing spree continues, and Kha'Zix, a mad lad, 7-2 and 7 MIF. This set is done. Snake Hunters found a way to get the 2-0.
Man,
He literally came back as the minions.
This Cerberus Kha'Zix doing it all for his team, isn't he? Yeah, my man deserves a pay raise. He needs a larger cut of the winnings because he does it all. Everything was stacked against him. Early ganks in his lane doesn't matter. That's first blood for me. Kha'Zix from 0-2, or 1-2 rather, to 7-2, making it look easy.
Kha'Zix in solo, call the ambulance, but not for me, as he finds a way to get the turnaround off the Stygian Torment. What a game, what a set, an absolute treat to get to watch this one, Myth. I know Game 1 got a bit out of control, off the rails towards the end, but certainly still an enjoyable watch, and Game 2 lived up to it because it looked all JustF6 for so long, but they found a way to turn this one around, a big win, and we'll break it all down for you just on the other side of a quick break.
Well, it was a 2-game set with the length of a 3-game set there to round out our day here, Gore. A long day in the EU SCC. You and I were joking. We talked so much about how EU has sped up the pace of these games. We're in and out in 25 minutes seemingly every time, and we get back-to-back 40-plus minute games. And luckily here for Snake Hunters, they're able to take this one. 2 games where things are looking iffy at the onset. But Gore, we figured out at Picks and Bans there that this Snake Hunters team just needed a little time to scale, and then the damage would come.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that just feels kind of, again, similar to the way their play style is right now. And you kind of hearken it back to what we saw out of EU SCC over the last few years, realistically. But it is that methodical, like, okay, we're going to, like, literally split into perfect phases of farm, a little bit of like 3-on-3, then the team fight. And, like, in North America and some of these other games, that those phases kind of blend together, and there's not really a good vision on it. But sometimes you just have to see them in their true form. Here, though, and I think that's actually the best way to kind of turn it around, showcasing that not all ganks on solo lane are going to be a good idea. You can see the damage. They were losing for the most part. I mean, look at this, 5-2 towards this portion of the game. It took about 30 minutes for them to really feel confident on the side of Snake Hunters, but they turned it around when they needed to.
They did, and I loved what I saw here out of a Porsche Coast on the Apollo as well. Apollo continues to be such a strong pick across really all metas. I don't think that changes much tomorrow when we dive into the North American SCC. But this guy that we're starting to highlight here, 3-2-4 as of this specific moment in the replay, started off tough, right? I mean, but turn around that 2v1 over in the solo lane. Cerberus, of course, has the ability to do that. 7-7 on the Serb to end that game. You'll take that every day of the week, looking like top gold in the game as well, or damn near close to it. Porsche Coast edges him out there just a little bit. Really everyone from Snake Hunters participating in this game, nobody wildly negative, anything like that. And I think the damage numbers go pretty far in telling you enough of the story, right? Yeah. Everyone who was not Shoxy Foxy was over 23,000 damage, and only a couple members of JustF6 were able to reach that metric. There was damage and then some by the time we reached the late game.
And honestly, what's interesting to watch is, like you said, the gold kind of leaning over towards Kazakhs and Vaporish Coast. But watching those highlights, and you go back, if you want to, watch that game, it's not until like 37, 38 minutes into the game that Snake Hunters actually get a gold lead. They are at a deficit for every minute for over half an hour of that game, and then all of a sudden, kills start coming up in their favor. That's not enough to offset it. Whatever JustF6 were doing to play the map, if they can figure out a game state to win in 30 minutes, they're doing it right, and they'll start winning their games. That's the change that they need to make, whereas Snake Hunters, wait until the end. Like, it's going to be a difficult path, but if you could get wins, I mean, today was a 2-0. I think that's something they could continue to do. Ideally, especially depending on which team you're going up against here in EU, you speed that up. But it showcases that the damage numbers are there. The farm, while it takes a little while, can still be there. If they can figure out that early game, I think this could be a really deadly team.
And Gore, this was an important one, right? There were standings implications on the line for this matchup. So alone at the top is Pandemonium. Unfortunately, JustF6 0-2, and you call it right. It's a 4-way tie there for second place. We're going to start to get into some of those head-to-head matchups, all that sort of fun stuff. So the middle of the pack here in the EU SCC is going to get cluttered. I don't even think Pandemonium is far and away better than Elysium, all these other teams. It's going to get cluttered even towards the top here. I don't think anyone is safe from a loss here in the EU SCC. So it's going to be a fun phase, to be sure. Here are your results after 1 day of SCC play here. 2-1 to start off the day, 2-1 in the middle, and then an 0-2 for the Snake Hunters to round out the day in the EU SCC. Tomorrow, some good ones in North America. Average Joes versus Sturdy Artisans will start us off. That is 11 a.m. Eastern time, so make sure you tune in then. And then Tiburones versus the Herculean Hoofs to round out the day in the North American SCC. Fishies versus Winter Dogs to sandwich in between those two. So, Gore, you start to look towards North America. We thought that EU had this knockdown, drag-out, rapid-paced play style. Some fun ones, though, in North America, I think, to look forward to, where the teams do love that incredibly fast-paced, fight-centric play style. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that first and third match tomorrow, I think the sandwiches are going to be very, very intense. And that middle one, like last week, the one that I was ready to count off ended up being a complete reverse of what I thought was going to happen. So even though current me is discounting that middle match, I'm almost positive that now means that Fishies is going to have some insane upset over Winter Dogs and something crazy is going to happen. So I think all three of them are going to give us something.
Yeah, I think you have to. With a name like Fishies, every once in a while you gotta bring something to the table that that surprises us all. It was a fun day, though. Fun but long day here in the EU SCC. On behalf of myself, Goremizer, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.